Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. We ventured outside of our usual military folk this week. TJ Webb, author of Just One More. TJ was wounded and subsequently medically retired from his injuries in a line of duty shooting. He's gone on to make a full recovery and travels the country as a public speaker and has written a wonderful book that all of you should check out at the TJ Webb on Instagram. Link for the book is in the show description. Hope you guys enjoy this episode as much as I did. I do apologize. I was not able to equalize his sound as much as I usually am. So I apologize in advance for that, but great conversation nonetheless. Remember to like, subscribe, share, forward, comment, whatever it takes. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. TJ Webb, welcome to Lesser Known Operators.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This is, I would say, a big episode for me, even though we're kind of new into this. You'll be my first guest that wasn't a Green Beret. Are you familiar with what that is?
Yeah. Familiar with you guys. Yeah, special forces and whatnot.
My favorite part about being a Green Beret, because we're like quiet professionals, right? And I'll talk to some of my friends like, what do you say about your service? And I'll say, man, I just tell people I'm a Green Beret and they make up wild shit in their head about what I used to do.
Yeah.
He's like, does that work? I go, every time. Because they make up, they say the most cool shit that I've never done. So I was like,
yeah, right.
Man, I sent 15 emails on my last day in the Army. So I wasn't jumping out of planes or doing any of that shit. But
yeah, but you got a good title out of it, so that's good.
Yeah, there's a recruiting poster from, it's old, like the 60s or 70s, and it's just a beret and a knife. And it says more about you than you'll ever say about yourself. But now that I'm out, I say a ton about myself. But when I'm in, you kind of, you quiet professionals, you don't want to talk about yourself at all. But
yeah, right.
Again, I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, this is big too, because lesser known operators, you qualify in my eyes, because I'm the producer of the show, as an operator on the law enforcement side. So
appreciate it.
Take us through so you were medically retired after 19 years, but what did you do in your professional career to get to that point?
So yeah, I started out pretty young for law enforcement. I went to the academy right after I turned 21, got out, hit patrol like everyone else does, worked a few years on patrol, and really I got pretty lucky in my career, man. I spent a lot of time in and out of different special units, from detectives, narcotics, SWAT, K9, fugitive task force with the Marshals. So I was really fortunate in my career, so no complaints. The last unit I was in was the Marshals task force, which ultimately led to my medical retirement.
So, completely different worlds, right? So does everybody start out at the same point pretty much in your guys' field as a kind of what is it, like called a beat cop or just as patrol cop?
Patrol. Start out in patrol, yeah.
What's it take to get to that point?
To patrol?
Yeah.
Graduate the academy and you're thrown out there to the wolves with like an FTO training program. So you have somebody with you for usually it's 3 months or something, 12 weeks.
And how long is the academy?
They vary depending on state and agency. I went to Delaware State Police Academy. It was 6 months.
Okay. So it's pretty, and you're living there?
Yeah, you're there Monday through Friday. You usually go home late Friday night. You're back 0 to 6 Monday morning usually.
Knowing what you know now about the whole thing, is that enough time to know what you're doing on day one when you get to your new job?
It's tough, man. The academy you're so beat down in there, dude, physically and sleep deprived. You really don't retain a lot, I feel like, which is why when you get out, it's good that you have that FTO program. You have somebody with you. But I feel like sometimes it could be a little longer, that training program. I don't feel like it depends on the person. For me, 12 weeks, I felt pretty comfortable with it. But in that job, man, I just feel like even after 19 years, you're still learning. There's so many things that change over time with that job, and it's a hard profession.
Yeah, especially in like the field I came in. I was in the Army for 8 years, and I didn't fucking know anything.
Yeah,
No,
right. Exactly, dude.
and
Yeah,
by the time when you learn something, it's time to get promoted to the next job, and you
yeah,
just mastered the last one, or
right.
and then, or you get somebody, and my favorite was you become a senior guy too early, and then you get a junior guy that's attached to you, and they're like,
Yeah,
oh, teach him the job. I'm like, I don't know the job.
yeah, yeah.
Can I
Same
learn the
thing,
job
man.
first?
Same
So
thing, dude. Yeah.
do you see that a lot? It's just kind of go figure it out.
Go. Yeah, there's a lot of that, man. Because that's one thing. I mean, I think everybody knows this, so they should know it. Law enforcement just lacks training in general. It's just there's not enough training. There's always when it comes down, like the agency I came from, at least a lot of agencies where I'm at, so everything came down to the budget. Well, we don't have it in the budget. We don't have it in the budget. Or it's like you get the minimal. Like I was 13 years on SWAT, and we went away to some cool trainings once in a while, but like our training was 8 hours a month, and then in the summer we had 1 or 2 straight weeks of training. But 8 hours a month is nothing. It's nothing.
Well, that's no. I mean,
No, it's nothing.
yeah, and it's crazy, like the opposite, polar opposites, right? So in our units, if we had an equivalent to a SWAT would be like a target, I don't know, it escapes me, right? But, kicking indoors, getting the bad
Yeah,
guys, getting out, direct action team, right? That they're preparing for that deployment for
yeah,
months,
right.
schools and everything. It's their focus. And then they do their mission, and then they come back. But you guys are on call all the time, right? For
Yeah,
huge
all the
blocks
time,
of
man.
time. And it's
Yeah,
completely flipped. You are expected to get your training in the moment, basically, to
yeah.
be ready for the next situation. But maybe you don't have all of that. Like 8 hours, we're going to be
Nothing.
recording for almost half that. That's insane to me.
Yeah, yeah. One 8 hour day a month, and then 1 to 2 straight weeks in the summer. That's what we did.
Sounds
And then
like
you
a
had, and then you
National
had,
Guard
like, and
does.
then they had the occasional class you would get to, like week long training class or whatever.
Phew.
Yeah,
All right. Well, we can dig
tough,
more
man.
into that. So you said you started out young in the police force. Was that right out of high school then?
Yeah, so when I graduated high school, and then I did some of like I live in the beach area in Delaware, and we have like the beach agencies have like summer help. So they're called seasonal officers. So you get like limited arrest powers for like minor misdemeanor arrest, traffic stuff, things like that. But you're unarmed. You have. I don't know if they have tasers now or not. When I was there, they didn't because this is like 25 years ago. But we had, like a baton, some OC spray, some handcuffs. It was like get to it. That was it. So I did that for a few years in the summertime, and then 3 summers. Then at the end of my third summer, I was 21, so they sent me to the academy for a full time police job.
Is there a minimum age requirement, or is that just when you were ready, got accepted?
You got to be 21 by the time you graduate the academy.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah. So I guess you got to be at least pretty close, or
yeah.
okay. So, pretty. So you had a little bit of buffer there. Did you ever consider the military, or was it kind of police uniform all the way?
I thought about the military a little bit, but I was like so mission driven on getting to law enforcement that I didn't want to take any detours.
The military police route wasn't tempting for you?
No, I don't know what I would have done. To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, you would have signed up for one thing, and then you would have done something completely different. That's generally how
That's what I hear. Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered what I
99% of the
wanted to do.
things don't
Yeah,
work out. Like my
yeah,
recruiter lied to me, or whatever the fuck story. That's what happened to me. They talked up this job I signed up for, and I got to my unit, and I went, "This is not for me. I got to get the fuck out of here."
yeah,
And I did, luckily. But some people get stuck, or they'll get out. Guys will get out.
yeah.
So you go to the academy, and you said that was 12 weeks,
6 months.
6 months. So
Yeah,
that's a good chunk of
24
time.
weeks. 24 weeks, I guess.
24. Yeah, with
Yeah,
holidays, it's half a year. So, you said sleep deprived. So from Monday to Friday, you're going pretty
yeah.
steady. What's a
Yeah,
normal day like?
I think the first week my class had like 4, maybe 5 hours of sleep first week.
Love
Um,
it.
yeah, it's probably similar to military. It's early morning PT. Like I think we did PT at like 05 or something, and then breakfast was like 06, and then you went into classroom, and then at lunch you had lunch, but they beat you up a little bit at lunch, and then back into the night.
Yeah, I mean, you got basic training, and I mean, basic training back in the day was different than it is now. People are a little bit softer now, so they got to take it
Yeah,
easy on you. So it
yeah,
just depends on your crowd. But
yeah,
yeah, I've had some sleep deprived days in
yeah.
my career, but I know how that goes. So like, what are they putting you through? What are you learning while you're there? What's the big focus?
Makes a little bit of everything, man. You have like a lot of classroom stuff and like basic law, like title stuff in the law book. You have like patrol procedures, which is kind of like they teach you like traffic stops and how to handle certain complaints, and they'll do it with like simulations. So you have like simulations for a couple weeks, going over like how to handle domestic, how to handle this, that, and the other. Um, it's like a little bit of everything. It's like a week of everything you would imagine, like everything you would handle. It's like a little week of training of it, and then you go on to the next course.
And everybody's getting this blanket training as your entry level sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then once you graduate, then you go to like a field training program. So you'll have like a partner with you basically who's like a senior officer. And they'll drive first and you kind of observe. And then they'll go into your driving and you're doing everything. And they're just observing you, letting you do your thing.
So do all officers have to do that senior instructor sort of thing, left seat, right seat sort of training, or is it kind of you're selected by your
It's
abilities?
like to be the trainer, to be the FTO.
Yeah,
You're selected. My agency would select who they wanted to do it. Yeah.
yeah. So you're kind of learning the ropes depending on that person's level of professionalism and their commitment.
Yeah, I mean, if you get somebody who's shitty or is an asshole, I mean, that's what you're learning. You know what I mean? It's the downfall of it. That's
Well,
probably anywhere.
yeah, I don't know. It is anywhere. I find that the higher you go up, the percentages start to flip, right?
Yeah,
The more professional level, because leadership tends to tighten up on putting up with bullshit, the
yeah,
more scrutiny a unit can be under, right? So like Green Berets are one thing, but there's a unit above us. There's a couple units that are above us on the same tier, and they don't put up with fucking any bullshit. That's
yeah,
the premier organization. If you don't fit in, you're gone. And the work they do is phenomenal. But the lower you go, what do you think about that? Do you think that some guys, because we're all people, right? And
yeah.
everybody's going through a different phase in their life. What's that stress like? On do guys just let it eat away at them like they do in our career?
Yeah, like the stress part of it, man. I think you kind of just take all that bad shit and you stuff it away and lock it away somewhere and hope it doesn't come out. But usually it does, right? Um, that's kind of like the old school mentality, man. Like it's the old saying was, "Don't take the job home with you." If you don't go home and talk about it, then there won't be any issues. You know, and that's like the worst advice ever. Is go home and not talk about it. It's the worst advice ever.
Yeah, some of that old school advice is really bad. You just gotta
Yeah,
grit your teeth and bear it.
yeah,
Because you guys don't take your job home, but it's part of that's your whole life. And it is kind of for us in the Army. You're segregated on this base away from
yeah,
everybody, and this new thing becomes your family. Well, that's
yeah,
you stay in that same life, and you kind of this get integrated into this weird part of society where
yeah,
everybody can love you and hate you depending on their mood.
yeah. And I feel like most of us tend to lock ourselves socially into like a group of friends who are also like cops or other first responders. You know what I mean? It's like you're kind of locked in that world all the time. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same in our community. I mean,
Yeah,
you kind of want people that you don't have to explain yourself to, right?
yeah, yeah,
I feel comfortable with these people. I don't have to tell them my story. I could just
yep,
be here and then we can just bullshit and talk about. whatever.
But I always found like whenever we were like away from work and you're hanging out with your friends who are also on the job, it was like, what do? You bitch about work. You
About
know what I
work.
mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, we have a negative bias, right?
Yeah.
We just focus on everything that's bad instead of,
Yeah.
and then that feeds in later when we get out. We go, oh man, I didn't appreciate what I had when I
Yeah.
was doing it, and I was just kind of bitching about it. And now I'm in this situation. I just wish I had that one. I didn't
Yeah.
appreciate what I had. Is that kind? You see that from people too?
Oh yeah, man. Even myself, like, it's a cancer, man. Like it's complaining and griping and moaning. Like it's a cancer. It catches on, right? So we all do it. I mean, I did my share of bitching and moaning too, And now, like retired, and I still talk to some friends on the job. Like when I talk to them, it's like, they're still complaining about the same old shit. Just part of it.
Yeah, but it's easy just to do the same thing every day. Comfort, right? You
Yeah.
fall into that, and then you end
Yeah.
up a few years down the line. You go, man, I wasted a whole year
Yeah.
with a bad attitude or in a bad
Yeah.
point in life or drinking too much and shit like that.
Yeah.
All right, so you do your training with your senior officer there, and then they turn you loose. I assume they give you a car and
Yeah. You get
they
your car and
take the
cut you
training
loose.
wheels off of it,
Yep. Yep. 30 to the wolves.
and you're considered a fully functioning officer at that point.
Yeah, you'd be just a slick sleeve patrolman. Yeah.
So is that like the lowest rank? We call it like
Yeah.
an
So
E1 is no rank.
yeah. No chevrons, no rankings. You just slick sleeve patrolman, and then your next one would be like PFC first class.
Is there hazing or indoctrination from the senior guys to see if you're kind of one of the boys?
Yeah, I feel like there are. I mean, every agency is different. It's its own entity. You know what I mean? They'll have their own things. We didn't have any like where I worked at. We didn't really have like any hazing like rituals or anything. But it was when you got cut loose, you were catching the brunt of it. Like you were getting every complaint possible that came in. You were going to get. They were going to hammer you with it, so you could get adjusted to having like a complaint like that. So, and like when I started there, I was a hometown guy where I worked at. Like I grew up there, so some of the guys knew me. So there was a lot of like I guess kind of ignored a little bit here and there. I don't know if that was more like a test or what, but yeah, I didn't have a lot of friends there starting out in the beginning. I think it was more of like he's got to earn his keep first.
Do you
So,
think that's the right approach, throwing the new guy to every stressful situation you can and let him figure it out?
to an extent, yeah. I mean, I think you kind of got to throw them out there so they can realize like you got to be able to multitask, and you got to be able to how to put one thing above the other. You got to figure out how to what cases do you have right now? What has priority and what doesn't? And I feel like because it's a stressful job, man. Things happen in a split second, so you really know how to prioritize it, how to flip a switch from doing one thing to doing another. I mean, if you're on the scene of a domestic where some woman just got the shit beat out of her, and now you gotta go over and handle a simple shoplifter. Like you're heading over that shoplifter, you're probably pissed off because you just handled some woman who got her face beat in, and now you have to go handle a simple shoplifter where someone's not giving you an attitude maybe, but you're pissed off because what you just saw. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of emotions that run through it, and your emotions change on a dime, man. You gotta know how to control those emotions because if you don't, that's what's going to get you in trouble.
Did they have programs or training on how to, you know, shake it off, right? Because you've got to
Yeah.
be able to be a different person from one minute to the next. Do they give you those skills, or are you just expected to, figure it out?
Man, you're kind of just expected to figure out. Nowadays, I mean, I went to the academy in 2003, so it was a long time ago. But nowadays, maybe they might now. I don't know. When I went through, now you just went out there and did your thing, man.
Well, it is a technique. Figure it out, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you had some programs like like de-escalation stuff, but not how to like manage like your mental health or your emotions or anything like that.
knowing what you know now, I keep saying, I've said that now twice. We'll see if I
Yeah,
get a third time, but knowing what you know now, because everybody has a capacity for trauma, right? And your
yeah,
guys is just getting a little bit every day, because
yeah.
that's kind of the job. Do you wish they had somebody telling you, hey, you need to start watching out for these things and these warning signs of you're not dealing with your issues correctly?
Yeah, I think there needs to be something in place where, especially in the academy, but even after the academy, there needs to be something in place where you're taught how to handle not just situations, but how to handle your emotions, to stress relief, how to handle things at home. There needs to be a little more, um, I'll say, care and understanding with that, because when I was going through the academy, when I got on the road, even my whole career, like there wasn't any of that kind of stuff, man. You just kind of shit festered, and you buried it down in there, and that's kind of what we all did. You just bury it in there, man, and put it away somewhere and lock it. You know?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like it's in my community, a lot of the times the first time you hear about it is when your buddy killed himself.
Yeah, that happened to me. My shift partner, who was actually one of my oldest childhood friends, we were friends since we were about 9 or 10, and he ended up coming and working at my agency. We were shift partners, and then one random day on our day off, the day before his first Father's Day, he was home with his wife and kid and took his life. You know, and nobody ever checked on him. Nobody ever asked him what's going on, what's the problem. And everyone, we all kind of knew. Well, I shouldn't say everybody because I don't want to speak for everybody, but everybody. Everybody kind of knew something was off with him a little bit, including myself. And no one, including myself, ever said, "Hey, man, like, what's going on?" It was kind of like, "Oh, well, it's not my business. Like, he'll figure it out. Whatever." And you know, that's kind of what happens
I
sometimes.
that really that really hurts,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
to hear. I saw a reel today. This kid having just a meltdown on the side of the road. The cop was talking to him, and he was on the veterans suicide hotline, and kind of talking him off the ledge. And it just reminded me of my friend. He died about 20 months ago, and 20 months ago today, actually. And yeah, just the it's terrible. We
yeah,
have this threshold, and it builds up and builds up, and you make a rash decision.
yeah,
And I think, part of it is we're also scared, like, to talk about it. Oh, you can't, you want to bring that up, fuck that. Like, are
yeah,
you going through a rough time or not? Because I thought about it a lot after that happened. It's not, you're not taking your pain away and dispersing it through the universe, right? Or to all your
yeah.
friends. You're multiplying it. So if you have, let's say, 100 value of pain, you're taking 100 value of pain and just handing it to everybody you know.
Right.
Nobody nobody thinks about that part. Oh, I'm going to feel better. And it's a pretty selfish thing, but I get it, right? Because I know that feeling of when you just tired, when you just tired and you want to give up, and the thought's right there. And I don't know. I think it's something we just need to talk about more openly. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Can I ask you a personal question?
Absolutely.
If you don't like it, you can edit it out.
Hey, yeah,
So
I am.
when that happened with your friend, were you mad at him?
I was
Like
crushed.
for me, when Sean took his life, I was more pissed than anything. Like I was furious. Like I was to the point where like probably for about 2 years, maybe more than 2 years, because it was probably up until my shooting when I went through my stuff. But I mean, I hated him. You know?
I was crushed. Totally unexpected. I don't know if I was mad. I don't know, because there's no point in, like, being mad.
Right.
So, the stages of grief, because who's going
Yep.
to be mad? It's just going to be me here in
Yeah.
Wisconsin. I'm not with the
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah.
So I probably did something worse, is I tried to drown it in booze.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, a lot, a
Yeah.
lot. So maybe it would have been better if I was angry, get me in the gym or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's happened. Nothing I can do about it, and you get past
Yeah.
it. But uh,
Yeah. Can't change anything, man. You got to move forward.
no. And it just becomes a story of, oh, there
Yeah.
was this guy and then this happened and he's gone. Right. And then I think about
Yeah.
my story. It's like,
Yep.
I did all these great things and it could be just my friends telling a story. And I didn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
I really don't want them to tell a story about me if I'm not there, if I can help it. So yeah, anger. I don't know if it came into it, but maybe more angry at myself because I've said this on the, only a couple of people know
Yeah.
this. This is in the front yard, July 6th, playing with the dogs, right? We just had the 4th of July party the night before. And I'm playing with the dogs and fetch, and it's beautiful. And yeah, he called me at 7:30, right? And loud music in the background. And I was like, I can't really hear you, man. I'm walking inside with the dogs. And then he said what turned out to be, he called to tell me he loved me. And then he shot himself right after he got off the phone.
Yeah. I'm sorry to
That's
hear that,
tough
man.
to that's
Yeah.
tough to like reconcile with. Like I more felt
Yeah.
like mad at myself
Yeah.
because
Guilty. Yeah.
I didn't recognize what he was calling. Like I thought he was in the gym,
Yeah.
and so maybe that's why I like felt guilty because as soon as I got, because other people started calling me and he called them.
Yeah.
I mean, I had my car at the time. I think my car would do about 190, and I'm like doing the math.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can make it to Texas in like 8 hours if I stop for gas here. And I was ready to go. And then
Yeah.
as I'm getting ready to leave, I got the call that he was gone. And I was just, I guess I was mad at myself. Yeah, I never thought
Yeah.
about it like that.
Yeah. I mean, that could be me too. I could have been more mad at myself and just putting it on him. I don't know, but I was mad for quite a long time. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's tough. But I hope we can, not normalize it because, then,
Yeah.
but the military does a way of that because the military sucks in the way that we just dark humor everything. We
Yeah.
just,
We do the same thing. We do the same shit.
somebody
Yeah.
somebody will kill off themselves, and then you'll go, yeah, because he didn't want to go to the field next week, that motherfucker.
We do the same shit.
Yeah.
Same shit. Yeah.
And that's, I think, one of the highest forms of negative coping mechanisms that we
Yeah.
we endure on ourselves. And and then I think about, I'm very open with my story. Right? I trained to be a Green Beret and to go to combat, and I never got to go. I never got to deploy with my team to go to combat. It's something I'll never get over. But, some of my friends went, people I know, and, they got shot or they're fucked up or they just
Yeah.
having problems dealing with shit. No, they can't, they don't want to, and things like that. So, everybody's got a story
Yeah.
and we all deal with it. But
Yeah.
that's why I like this. You can come on and talk about
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. It's just me and you, because you don't know me and I don't know you. But I think it's like, I saw your thing and Instagram got me, right? And I was like, okay, I saw your little SWAT patch. I was like, okay, well, that qualifies. And oh, you got a book? Perfect. All right, message. Cool. I want to talk to this guy because
Yeah.
you could swap where there's a lot of skills that you can swap from your field into ours and you'd fit right in, right? Because
Yeah.
at the end of
Right.
the day, a lot of what it is, can I have a beer with this guy
Right.
after we do some fucked up shit? Is that kind of the feeling in your unit as well?
Yeah. Same exact thing, man. You
Yeah.
nailed it. A lot of similarities. A lot of similarities.
Well, let's dig ourselves out of that dark hole. No, I appreciate it, man. Like it's one thing to say, let's normalize this talk about mental health and to get everybody on it. There's another thing to do it.
Yeah.
That's even harder because you can say, I want to have a podcast, or I want to write a book, or I want to run a marathon, right? And then you got to fucking do it. That's they say, yeah. So just some of those things are painful, like dealing with your finances. It's the worst.
Yeah. It's terrible. Running the business and finances, I don't like that part of it.
Oh my God, this is the easy part. Talking to you and recording,
Yeah.
it does everything in the software.
Yeah.
I get off here, I'm going to spend 6 hours like trying to make one Instagram post and messaging people I don't know and looking up things and editing and all the other shit. There's so much other shit to it, but you got to fucking do it. You got to be an example
That's
for other guys coming up. Do you
Yep.
feel like as you went up through the different units and you got to more and more I say prestigious
Yeah.
assignments, you feel like that is what you're meant to be doing. Like you're the example of what people need to be striving for. Not that you personally, but that position
Yeah.
is everybody should be striving to be better.
Yeah. I felt like that towards the end, like when I got in, because I was doing narcotics and the task force stuff for fugitives at the same time, kind of like hand in hand. And once I got to that point, and I was getting like a better level of training with certain things with the marshals and whatnot, I started realizing like I'm operating at a higher level now than the rest of these guys. Yeah, and that's something that they look to. You know what I mean? Especially like when we had SWAT training, they would ask me for like whatever tips or tricks we were doing elsewhere and things like that. So, which I should have known better already anyway, because I was one of the more senior guys in the agency at that point. But you're just going by your day to day. You're not thinking about it. And then one day, I don't know when or why or where, but it just kind of hit me one day like you need to act the part that you actually have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there always comes a day in your career when you go, oh
Yeah,
shit, I'm in charge here.
yeah, yeah,
And it's just one day you're not. And then for me, it was when I got out of the military. I was like, I'm the boss now. Nobody's going to tell me what to do.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, you realize that. So, and you said you realized you get into this organization, people are asking you. So it must have felt good to get to that position, right?
Yeah, I was the first one from our department to ever go to that task force with the marshals. So it was really cool, man. I was honored to have it because the U.S. Marshals is a really great law enforcement organization. So I was really honored to have that position, and it was a lot of fun. I met so many awesome guys, dude, and we had such a tight team. And the one thing I liked about it is, like coming from like a police agency, and there's any other cops listening, you'll get it. You have your boys on the department, but you're always going to have things to bitch about and complain about because it's just the nature of the beast. That's what it is, right? But when I got to the task force, we didn't have so much of that because everyone came from like a different agency. Everyone came from like a different world. So when we all combined, it was like I don't give a shit what's going on with your department, and you don't give a shit what's going on with mine. We got a job to do. We're going to focus on that, and we're going to have fun doing it. And that was the best part about it, is that we all had the same goal, and we didn't have all that drama behind us, picking at us from our respective agencies.
Yeah, the mission becomes paramount, right?
Yeah, yeah,
How's that feeling when you finally get to a unit like that where this is the mission? Is it because I know it's how it's like for us. You get away
yeah,
from what's called big army and you get into more specialized units. It's intoxicating, right? You kind of
yeah,
become addicted to it, and then you start
yeah.
sacrificing your personal life and everything else just to get more of it. It's the same.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, you're really nailing it there. Yeah, when I got to that unit, it was work, 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 man. Early mornings, late nights, weekends, Sunday mornings. Like, if shit popped up, we just went. And if my phone went off with the team, it was like, who's available? If you're asking me, I'm available because I'm going to be there for you. You know what I mean? You just went. You just dropped what you were doing and you went. And it, like you said, consumes you.
Yeah. The And from talking to other guys, and you have this aversion to saying no, right? Because
Yeah,
you get it in your head that if I say no, then I'm not going to be dependable. Or they're not going to ask me next time. So I better say yes this time because I want
yeah.
that call next time.
There's that, and it's also for me, and I think for the guys I work with too, because we've talked about that. Is like if you don't go and something goes south, you're gonna feel really bad that you weren't there. You know what I mean? That's the way I thought. Like if something goes south and I'm not there, I don't know if I'll be able how I can live with that. It's just an awful feeling. Um, so that's one reason. Even if it was like something like I know they don't need me, or it was like I really don't want to go to this because I have this other thing going on personally. Like I went because I didn't want to not be there for them.
Yeah, God, I 100% get that. The the military's like that because you could be
Yeah,
units away, other states away, but if you
yeah,
served with somebody and they got hurt
yeah.
or they got killed downrange, you'll always be like, well, maybe if I would have done something differently in my career
Exactly.
years ago, I could have been there. You come up with all these scenarios to
Oh
somehow
yeah,
blame yourself for what
yeah,
happened.
yeah,
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Another thing that we do, right?
yeah.
taking on all that stress.
Yeah.
So that's quite the jump, though, from slick sleeve patrolman to U.S. Marshals Violent Fugitive Task Force.
Well, I had some rank on me between there.
Okay, I would hope so.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I had a
got.
car for a week, and then I
Yeah.
was, hunting down bad
Yeah.
guys on the Mexican border.
Yeah, I got into the task force, I guess around my 14th or 15th year, something like that.
Okay. So then you
Before,
spent the majority of your time in SWAT then.
yeah, because our SWAT team wasn't full time, so like it was considered part time. So like you're still doing whatever your other duties are. Like if you're on patrol, you're doing that. If you're the detective, you're doing that. And then the SWAT team was like a part time unit. You were utilized when they needed you.
So what's the roles and responsibilities for SWAT?
So it's like any other tactical team. It's set up the same way. You got your breacher and all that kind of shit. But the role is basically for our team. I mean, like I said, every agency is different. They're their own entity. But ours was more of like high risk warrants or like drug warrants. We trained a little bit for like hostage rescue and shit. But we never did any of that. We had something like that. We'd call like state police or like one of the other bigger agencies nearby and let them do it because they train more for that kind of mission. But ours was like the day to day was like search warrants and arrest warrants.
So you 4-man stack going in the door, or
We had a 12-man team, and then after I was on it for a while, I got into the K9 unit, which was full time. So you work patrol, but you're not handling like all the every bullshit complaint that comes in. You're doing like in progress complaints or backing guys up, things like that. So once I got on the K9 unit, I got certified with that, that was another 6-month school. Then I went to a couple like K9 integrated, like K9 SWAT integrated courses. Got certified as SWAT K9, and then I was K9 handler for our team.
that's got to be a different kind of partner right there, right? To have a dog.
Oh man, yeah, that was so 2 things in my career that I'm the most proud of, and the one I had the most fun with was the Marshals, hands down. But the one that I'm probably the most proud of is K9, and that's because with K9, man, like you're truly going to get out of that what it is that you put into it. So if you're very successful, it's because you busted your ass and you worked hard with that dog. If you failed at a lot of shit and it didn't work out, it's because you didn't put the work in. That's how I look at it. So, and I had a lot of success with my dog. So much fun with that guy. I'm very proud of what I did with that. But those are my 2 top things in my career.
Malinois or a Shepherd?
Shepherd.
Shepherd. Yeah, we had a, the kennel was attached to our unit, and there were guys with dogs.
Yeah.
And, your guys' dog see some crazy shit, but one day we're like, oh, we're rigging up, and I was like, the dog's going to jump? Like,
Man,
yeah.
that's crazy. That's so cool.
You're faster. The guys are faster up with the dogs. They're, it's like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. It's got its own goggles, and the dog.
I've seen videos of that. It's so cool, man. It's so cool looking. Yeah. So
and they
cool.
know what they're doing. I'm like, God damn, man, it's a dog's living a crazier life than I am. I'm hurt. Wild, I can't do this shit. I'm like, fuck, I'm jealous of a goddamn dog.
I know, it's wild, man. It's crazy.
But it's cool. No, everybody I've talked to that had that, it's like, that's because it's an interesting partner relationship, because that dog will do anything you said, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No fear, man.
Yeah. No fear. Just
they don't know. It's a game to them,
Yeah. And we were watching a show the other night, and this person's fleeing through the woods, and they got the dogs barking, and I'm just like, this is so stupid. And my wife's like, what's wrong now? And I was like, you can hear the dogs. Like, if the dogs are chasing you, you're fucked. Like, they're gonna. It's not like you can hide or spray anything. They're not. Yeah. It's you're dead. So I was like, this is so stupid. Turn that shit off. Go to the next stupid thing on TV. Do you have a hard time watching shows as well and going, this is completely fucking unrealistic? Because there's way more cop shows than there are the military ones for our
unit. I mean, I watch some stuff, but some shit I'm like, this is just fucking dumb. And I can't think of anything as an example because I don't really watch any of it. But some, it's like, listen, what are you doing? You know what I mean? What are we doing This is ridiculous. Even like the I don't like watching true crime stuff either. I don't like watching that shit either. Like investigations and stuff. Like I don't want to watch this. I did this for 20 years. I don't want to watch this shit. My wife loves that stuff. I don't want to watch it.
Yeah, everybody I've talked to, they're like, I don't see. I like watching murder documentaries.
Yeah,
Like for the story. There's a whatever. It's the puzzle. I like to hear about the history. Oh, that's how that happened. Shit like that.
Yeah.
But do you ever, something will come on. Do you ever find yourself armchair quarterbacking what they're talking about?
No, I don't think so. Not so much. It's either I find it enjoyable or I find it absolutely ridiculous. It's like one or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't really find myself critiquing anything too much. I just kind of get through it.
Do you ever critique anything like controversial shit will come up and the news will skew it one way on one news program, and another news program will skew it the other way? Are you able to kind of see through the spin they're trying to put on it and go and break it down for what happened in the moment?
Yeah, and the thing that pisses me off with that kind of stuff, man, is like everyone's on there. Like as soon as shit happens, people are on there. This was wrong and that was wrong. I'm like, this just happened 10 minutes ago, and you guys don't have any fucking information. You have a 10-second clip of a body camera and not the entire 20 minutes or whatever the hell it was. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'll sit here for days or weeks until I fucking make any sort of judgment on what may or may not happen, because you got to have all the information. And when you get on the news, they don't give a shit. They're just going to spin it however they want it anyway. You know what I mean? Send everybody into a frenzy. That's what pisses me off.
Yeah, we are quick to jump to conclusions without any corroborating evidence.
Right.
And it's just like this, right? Or social media. You're not selling the truth. You're selling stories, and it's your audience's ability to understand it and consume it, and then like and share it with somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's why with this, I'm like, people ask me, oh, have you seen this podcast or listened to this? I'm like, man, I would love to listen to other people's shit, but I'm so afraid of stealing other people's like style or jokes or anything else that I try to limit like any sort of opinion on that sort of thing. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I do, man, because I feel like, certain things, like if you follow it enough or watch it enough, like, and you like it, like you'll start leaning towards a certain manner or something without even realizing it. You know what I mean? Like I've done that. I've done like videos or something. I'm like, oh, I sound like somebody. I can't post that because that feels like I'm copying somebody. You know what I mean? I've done that before. It's really weird, isn't it? How that kind of happens. Copy somebody's style a little bit.
Yeah, if you listen to Rogan or Sean Ryan or whoever enough times, you'll be like, you're talking about aliens and mushroom or ayahuasca trips and all kinds of weird shit, or how the CIA, Sean Ryan's shit's been a little bit out there, but
he's gotten all over the place.
Well, good for him, Good
I love the show. I'm a big fan of the show. I love it.
That's one of the things with this one, right? So I took little bits out of people's show. Like I watched Sean's and I was like, man, he looks comfortable.
Yeah.
So I got my chair from upstairs. Now I sit up in a folding chair upstairs. I'm so uncomfortable when I'm watching TV at night. So I'm in my nice comfy chair here. I got no wires. So I can just kind of talk with my hands.
Yeah.
If you're listening without video at home, I'm constantly waving my arms. But yeah, I just want to be comfortable. And then Rogan's just like a chill, just conversation. He doesn't have, and the only reason I have this, right, is because you'll say something and I don't want to interrupt you. I'll just write down one word so I can go back and hit it. And that's from the military sort of thing. If you don't have something to write with and to write on, you're wrong. And then the other one was like Bill Maher's podcast. He always said, it'd be really great if we could see each other without it being work. And that's what I want it to feel like. We're not at work. We're just hanging out and talking about shit. You'll learn something from me. I'll learn something from you. Yeah. And then that your network just gets bigger and bigger. And that's what I love about like the community. You get to a certain level of guys and gals and then just studs, right? And you just depend on them. You find that a lot in your community. Like the higher you get up, the more dependable people are.
Yeah, I think so for the most part. I think because as you work your way up, you're getting the guys that have obviously been there a lot longer than you have. so they're ahead of the game a little bit. So it's easy to learn a little bit from them and pick and choose what you want to take from them. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't really have much to elaborate on that, but yeah.
As far as like chain of command, right? Who's
Yeah.
as your so what's above like slick sleeve?
So you got your slick sleeve, and you got PFC, which is patrolman first class, and then with like ranks, every agency is kind of different. Like where I was, it was patrolman first class, and then you had corporal, senior corporal, sergeant, and then you get into the administration, which is like lieutenant, captain, chief.
Yeah, all of that I know about ranks are from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, that was a good show.
So I thought
That
it
was
was
a good
actually
show.
really good
Yeah, it was
comedy-wise
hilarious.
because it was so ridiculous that you
it was
couldn't
great.
compare it to real life.
Yeah, that's why I liked it. It was funny. It was a funny show.
But I say that like, with the ranks, I'll be watching some news conference or whatever, and the Chiefs on there, and they got like 5 stars here on the lapel and then 5
Yeah.
stars here. I was
Yeah.
like, God, they're looking like a North Korean general in here.
Yeah.
Like, what fucking rank is that? Do you see? So you say that a lot of different departments have different things. Is it it's not,
Yeah.
it's not standard, is it?
No, they all have their own rank structure for the most part. How they want to structure it. I've seen some crazy shit. I've seen guys places with like a million stars on them, and I'm like, what are you doing? But I know like NYPD, I'm pretty sure like detective is actually a rank for NYPD, whereas like down here, like where I'm at, like it's not a rank, it's just a position, like a title. You know what I mean? So things are always different places.
Well, NYPD services 8.5 million people.
Yeah, they have like what 30,000 officers or something. That's wild.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Whereas, how big was the department you were in?
We had about 40 officers, and the population was like 12 to 15,000.
Okay, so a little smaller than NYPD, not too much.
Tiny bit.
So who's your mentor as a new guy? Is your detective or sergeant like mentoring you and kind of showing you the way, or who's that person like?
Yeah, well, you have your training, your field training program when you're with someone, so that's kind of like your mentor, like for that time being. And then when you get out, you'll go to a shift with a sergeant. So your sergeant would be like your mentor, but he's your boss. You know what I mean? So but especially like when you're first starting out, like your first shift, and you're at your first shift with your first assigned sergeant. That's who's gonna like groom you to what you might ultimately be, or at least starting out.
Is sergeants still going out and dealing with the general populace? Because as soon as you get to a management role in the Army, there's paperwork. There's just paperwork, endless.
And it again that varies too. Like in my agency, like they were drowned in paperwork, but they still had to go out and meet certain criteria out on patrol. But I know like other agencies near us, I'm like they went out when they needed to or wanted to, but other than that, they were inside like handling paperwork and managing things.
At what point do you just not leave your desk again?
Pretty much when you get to the administration, which would be like the first rank of that would be lieutenant.
Okay. How long does that usually take, or is it you kind of?
It varies. Like I know guys that made it there. I don't know what the average would be. I would say maybe. I know guys that have made it there in like 10 years, and I know guys that made it there in like 25 years. So it just kind of varies. Yeah.
Can you go your whole career with never just being a regular cop? I don't use the term regular.
Yeah.
I don't know what the term is.
Like just a regular like patrol officer or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know guys that have retired and just at like lower level ranks, never did special units. They just worked shift work in a black and white police car for 20 years, and that's all they did for 20 years. Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think it sounds absolutely miserable. Absolutely fucking miserable, dude. Yeah.
Because eventually every day is going to be exactly the same, right?
You get burned out. You get burned out, man. You know what I mean? You're working 12-hour shifts. You're working day work, night work, and you're handling. The patrol is the backbone of any police department because that's the nitty gritty, right? Like you're out there, you're handling the day to day, right? So you're out there taking the brunt of it every single day. If you do that, that's all you do for 20 years. Like, dude, you have been beat down hard for 20 years doing that. That's a rough life, man. A lot of guys do it. A lot of guys do it. That's rough. It's rough.
Yeah, everybody's got a different, I guess, personality.
Yeah.
But is that where the stereotypical cop stereotype comes from those
Yeah.
the guys that do that just every day, grind it out and don't rise anywhere? Or where does that come from?
Stereotypical meaning like as far as which stereotype, because there's a few of them.
Just
Like asshole.
the two cops, they're both overweight, going to get donuts.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that comes with I'd say it comes with your longevity and your ability to not give a fuck anymore, I guess. Yeah, you're most of those guys are they're stuck there because they don't want to do anything. They don't want to work harder to get out of it, and
What
you know,
percentage of people do you encounter like that?
oh man, unfortunately, I think it's probably pretty high.
Yeah,
I think it's probably pretty high.
kind of a loaded question there,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, I think it's pretty high.
But they're still doing the job. That it's still a job.
Yeah,
They're still
yeah. And
dealing with other people.
I'm not saying like their bad cops are out there like
Oh,
violating anything. They just have poor attitudes because they're stuck in the same spot because for whatever number of reasons that's where they are and they don't like it. You know what I mean?
yeah. Everybody's got a different situation,
Yeah, you know.
and everybody's meter for giving a fuck eventually, runs out too.
Yeah,
So you
you only
just
take
kind of
so
go,
much.
I can just stay right here and ride out. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're still in an admirable position. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of the population hates you, but
Yep.
that's kind of goes with it. What do you see about that? Because I had this driving home today, and I thought about support for military and police really goes up when something bad happens.
Yeah, it's about the only time you see it.
You see a soldier get killed, or you see we got to go, I don't know, fucking save the world or some bullshit, or a cop gets killed, and it raise up. Everybody loves the cops, and then something bad happens. It goes through the floor again. What do you think about that?
It's tough, man. Like like you go places and you see like back to blue, and da 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 da, and I'm just kind of like, whatever. Like it doesn't really. Do you? You know what I mean? It's all man. All I can say is like that job is it's a thankless job, man. Like I don't think anybody really nobody really understands that job, and you're not going to understand that job unless you do it. It can be a lonely job, man, because people just don't understand you. They don't understand your personality, or maybe why you live your life your way, or um, maybe why you don't want to talk to people. Um, it's tough. I mean, I don't think we do ourselves any favors either by being like that. Being like kind of most of us are antisocial. We stick to our people. So that doesn't help us any. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's a tough one.
Yeah, and then people's perception of, and this is paramount in the unit I came from. Like, if you have in the regular army, a soldier does something shitty. Oh, okay, it was kind of it was that soldier's fault and the person that was in charge of him. But if like a Green Beret or like a Navy SEAL causes an incident, right? Then
Yeah,
it's every fucking Navy SEAL or Green Beret is in the shitter. Like, we're the
yeah.
fucking worst. And I
Guilty
think
by
that's the same way
association.
with you guys.
Same thing, man. You're guilty by association. One person does it, that means you all do it. It's not fair, but it is what it is. I mean, I honestly don't think that's ever going to change. I think it's just it is what it is.
Well, I don't think the general people have so much going on in their lives that to take on more empathy for people they don't know, because
Yeah,
okay, fire and police, it's just 911, right? It's
right.
it's just automatic. It's over here in this section of the org chart in their life, and they're focusing on right here. And for people to be able to take in the bandwidth of everything that's going on and everybody's emotions, you just can't do it. And that's where you see, divisive people having these wild opinions on things and jumping to conclusions. And you're right. It's just a lot of things aren't going to change, no matter how much we bitch about it or how much we say, oh, we clamor for, oh, well, you need change in this, or we need to adjust the way we think here. It's like, do, yeah, okay, yeah, we got a lot of
Yeah,
shit to care about here, but
yeah,
I gotta pay the heating bill, so I gotta
yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. Like I said, I don't see that. I don't see that changing anytime. I really don't. I think that's just human nature.
Yeah. Well, do the best we can. Unfortunately, right, experience takes many years to garner.
Yeah. Right.
And you realize it because now you look back at the position and you've got all this knowledge and you go, oh man, that I could do this, I could do that. I would do the train this way and I would lead
Yeah.
guys this way. And, but it's over, right? And
Yeah.
you don't get
Yeah.
all the picture until you're done.
Yep. Yep.
So you went to SWAT pretty quickly. What rank or where were you in the structure when you got identified to go to that training?
I was a PFC, Patrolman First Class.
You've
Yeah.
been driving around for like 3 years about?
Yeah. Well, I worked at a couple other agencies before I landed at Melford, where I ultimately spent most of my career. So when I got to Melford, I had about 4 years on, and then I was there for about a year, and they had some openings on SWAT, so I put in for that, and I actually got voted on the team early. I think I got on a year early than what I was technically supposed to get on that. Yeah.
Is that like a board thing? The
Yeah, you
people
do
on
like
the
a
team?
yeah, yeah. You have like a PT test. It's pretty simple. I can't remember what it was. It was like push up, sit ups, or run or something. And then you have to be unanimously voted on with an interview.
Okay. How important is fitness in being a successful patrolman or police officer?
Well, it's not emphasized enough, but it's paramount, man. Like it's your fitness level is. I mean, that's your life. You get into something out there in the street and you're not physically prepared to handle it. That's your life. You know, you can't run a little bit. You can't carry your own body weight. I mean, you got to. There's a lot of people out there, sadly, that aren't in shape. Um, and you know, it's a dangerous game, man, because your life depends on your level of fitness in that job.
Yeah. More importantly, other people's life
Yeah,
depend on it. What do you think when you? Because I know what I think when I see a soldier. I'm like, what the fuck?
yeah,
What are your thoughts going through your head when you go, what the fuck happened to you, man?
yeah. It's disgusting, man. You know, like I get it because I've done it. Like it's hard. Like you're working shift work, then you have your home life. Like it's hard working 12-hour shifts and trying to find time to work out. I get it, but it drives me nuts. Like when I see guys who are like so out of shape, they don't do anything, and then I walk in and like they're eating some giant ass fucking cheesesteak or Burger King or like a whole pizza, and I'm like, you're not doing yourselves any favor. Like it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you're eating a fucking cheesesteak. You know what I mean? It kind of drives me nuts. It drove me nuts a little bit, but to each their own. You know?
Yeah, you let an area slip and then another one will go with it,
Yeah,
and yeah, I've definitely found that all of a sudden you don't recognize where you are
yeah,
anymore with your
yeah,
level of fitness. I let
yeah,
mine go, and now I've swung completely the opposite direction. Is it's consumed my entire life.
yeah,
But I'm clearer and focused. And a lot of people don't realize that. The better shape you are, the better you're gonna feel mentally.
yeah.
You're gonna
Absolutely.
you're gonna speak better. You're gonna
Yeah,
sleep better. All this other everything will be better. But I think, oh, it's this hard thing. Well, just do. You don't have to go to the gym 7 days a week right away.
yeah.
Go once. Go once. Uh,
That's my whole thing, man. Like or like physical fitness is like that's my whole. That's predominant. That's my entire mental health release. That's me. You know, just physical fitness is my thing. I just feel so much better, man. Like physically, mentally, it's great. But I always tell people, man, like if you're starting out, like it don't like you said, it doesn't have to be a lot. Go for a 20-minute walk. You know what I mean? Do some simple push-ups in the morning when you get up, just to get your heart beating a little bit. You know, it's just simple things. And the most important thing is watch what you put into your body. You know, just be careful what you're putting into your body because you are what you eat, man. If you're eating shit, you're gonna feel like shit. You know?
yeah. Yeah. My new one is when people say, "Oh, I want to get back in the gym." I say, "Oh, good. Do 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups, and 20 air squats right now, and then you can worry about day 2 tomorrow." Done. That'll take you a
Yeah,
couple minutes. Uh,
yeah,
Figure out what you want to do tomorrow,
yeah. It's simple.
and that's as easy as that. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Some people get hurt, and I understand that, and that's a very small majority, and then they fall in that category. And there's other people that just, they've just taken on too much, and that's another small category. But the majority of people that just let it get the better of them, and they start feeling sorry for themselves.
And a lot of people put the blame on time, but I'm like, if you were to sit down and think, I don't care who you are, if you sit down and really think about your schedule, you can squeeze in 10 to 20 minutes a day or a few times a week, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Like, there's no excuse for that. That's my opinion on it.
Especially now with what I'm learning on maintaining strength and fitness level, right? It takes a good amount to get you there, but to stay there is something between 1/5 and 1/9 of the activity level that you were doing before. It's just to maintain.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's another thing. The military runs. The first thing we do in the morning, right, is PT. But we got this focus on cardio. They're changing things now. They've changed the PT test and some of the standards. But still, you look around and you fuck, I don't know if you could carry me, out of the way. And that's the good thing about our unit. I mean, no matter how small the person was in special forces, they'll get you out. I mean, they're just tough dudes. They'll figure it out. 150-pound guy is going to get a 300-pound guy out. I don't know how he would do it, but he would. Yeah. And that's what's cool about those other units. I don't know. We got off on there. So what we were talking about. Anyway, fat cops and fat soldiers.
Yeah.
Not too bad, right? Because as I said earlier, it gives a bad name to other guys that are keeping up with it.
Yeah. And the other thing, man, like for police anyway, like when you're in uniform and you look like that, if you're walking around looking like fucking chewed bubblegum, who do you think someone like some bad guy is not going to be tempted to take a shot at you as far as like getting away or fighting you? Like, you look like a bag of ass. If I'm walking by a cop and he looks like some piece of shit and I'm a bad guy, I'm like, hey, this guy tries to arrest me. But if you walk by and you're squared away, you're fit, you're physically fit, your uniform's tailored to you, you look good, you look squared away, they're going to think twice about messing with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a deterrent.
Yeah. Because that's a proven fact. There's been studies on that with inmates that have said that. I mean, that's a fact. If you look like shit, they're going to test you.
Yeah, that's first thing when you meet somebody, right? Is they look at you and they size you up.
Yeah, how's this guy hold himself? You know what I mean? That's what we do.
And for anybody listening, it's not if you're in that category and you want to get better, I'm not shitting on you. Just start small and chip away at it and work yourself back to where you want to be. You don't have to fucking go, like I said, 7 days a week and change your drastic diet. Make little manageable changes over time, and in a year you'll be amazed at the difference.
Man, I always tell people, like, have a goal, and to get there, you gotta line up your micro goals. You gotta start small and give yourself those little wins to get some momentum.
Little wins are the best, right?
Yeah.
Because, for example, I finally got bench press PR that I've been trying for 10 years. Took 10 years to do it. Yeah. But all of these little victories in between, keep it going I'm going to get there one day and finally get it.
Yeah, dude, you got to give yourself those little victories, those micro wins, because if not, like, how are you going to keep the momentum going if you're not celebrating something? You know what I mean? You'll get burned out,
Yeah, it could be a sad existence.
Yeah.
So you get unanimously voted on to come in. So you get brought on. Is this after the training or?
No, you get brought on and then they send you to school. Then they send you to like a basic SWAT school.
Is that state dependent, county, or what is that?
There's a couple. I went to a county agency's SWAT school. And then from there I went to like a 3 week, or no, it was 4 weeks. It was like SWAT 1, 2, and 3 with like rappelling. I did that with what was that company? GTI, Government Training Institute. I think they're out of Carolina.
Which one? Okay.
They're called GTI. I went through their school back in like 20. I don't know when it was, 08 or no, I guess it been like 09 or 2010 maybe.
So that's contracted.
Yeah, it was contracted.
Okay. Yeah, so my buddy's in South Carolina, Controlled Chaos Technicians, and I sent him your profile. I was like, you know this guy? Because all he does
cool.
is train
Yeah.
South Carolina SWAT, just
Nice.
in a constant loop. And he's
Yeah.
certified through the state to give him these different
Yeah.
levels of certifications.
Yeah.
And when I was talking, we were supposed to, he had a storm come through, but his episode we'll record in a couple of weeks. But his big thing was just like, he was telling me the lack of training that you guys get is
Yeah. It's
appalling.
terrible.
Like,
It's
you
terrible.
know, every excuse too, right? Budget, bullets,
Yeah.
transportation, there's no time. I was
Yeah.
like, well, you know, I mean, this is a pretty specialized role. What do you mean there's no time for training?
Yeah.
This is a pretty big deal here. You know, you're going into a building with live bullets off safe, going in to get somebody. That's
Yeah.
what level of training while you're there? Because you said 8 hours a week,
8 hours a month.
a month. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
8 hours a month. 8 hours of SWAT training a month.
Okay. So it's like a couple minutes a day.
Yeah.
What did you find that most of the classes that you did do were through contractors?
Yeah. Like GTI was a government contract training, and I'm trying to think of some other ones I went to. I can't remember now, but most of them were like, yeah, they were contracted out, like third party agency, private owned company, like a Blackwater. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty good though. Because I guess
Yeah,
if they suck, then you
GTI.
can just
GTI was
fire them
great.
if they suck, right? And get another one.
Yeah, yeah. Like they would come in. Like I think the one I went to with them was like a state contracted training thing. They like it was like a year-long program where like they try to get every SWAT operator in the state to go through it. It was a pretty good program. It was a good school. A lot of it was like ex-military guys that were instructors, and they had some adjunct instructors from like other places. It was a pretty good course.
Yeah, this guy's Green Beret also,
Yeah,
and his partner is actually as well. But you know, you kind of get into that field overseas and do some crazy shit, and then you go,
yeah,
dude, this is pretty easy. We're just regurgitating what the government fed us. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then you get in that level, those guys, you know, nothing's going to phase them. They're just calm
No,
all the time. Yeah. Nope. Hey, nope. That foot a little bit back. Nope. This one forward here. You want to do this? All right. Now go
yeah.
run
Well, it's
down
like you
there.
said. It's like you said earlier. It's just repetition. You do something enough, it's second nature.
Yeah, man. Like the emphasis in our unit, and a lot of guys will tell you, especially one of our core beliefs, right, is we're supposed to be the best at the basics. Is that
Yeah,
kind of a thing in SWAT, being really good at the little things?
yeah. I think so. Being really good at little things and knowing your role. Like if you're a breacher, like be everything you could be with a breacher. You know what I mean? Like whatever it may be. And the other thing I was always big on, look for work has always been my thing. Like don't just stand around and do shit. Like there's always something to do, man. Like especially like in a tactical environment, there's always something to do. Whether someone's in a room and needs another body, or you're watching a door, you're watching this, you're watching that, whatever it may be. There's always something to do. You gotta look for it. You just can't stand around in that kind of environment.
Well, I mean, especially in direct action, right? You clear the living,
Yeah.
clear the dead, then you're looking for work.
Right.
Top,
Yeah.
clearing the room top to bottom,
Yeah.
listening. When you guys, did you guys ever do explosive breaching, or is it all just,
I went to some training with. We did some explosive breaching at trainings and stuff, but we never used it out on the field on mission.
it's a hoot?
It was fun to train. It was fun training. It was fun training. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Fun training. Yeah. We used to we would flash bang the hell out of houses. We'd flash bang the shit out of some houses.
How's that on the other side? Because how far away are you from that going off? And do you kind of start feeling the effects of that? Because I know, like the medical, what happens to the guys, and
Yeah.
you're still getting little blows.
You're still getting it, man. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, even like with like the comms units on, like the soundproof comms and stuff. We had those, but like you're still getting a little of that percussion. You know what I mean? And it's like you breach a door, and then you're like, bang out, and you just drop that thing in the doorway, and then you're just kind of back, and then you're moving in, but you still feel it. For
Yeah.
sure.
I can still hear my last door charge I set off. I can still hear it, right there. I don't know if you at home can hear it, but if you were in the military, you can. On the team, on a SWAT team, and this is kind of true on SF teams, there's like this, it's kind of like an air of superiority, and you don't notice it, right? You just are that way. And it's kind of from the environment that you're operating in, the level that you're training at, your fitness level, the stuff you got to know, the stress of the job and everything. And I didn't kind of notice it until I was done. You kind of just start, whether or not you know it or you don't, you're kind of more a prick than you used to be. Kind of see that.
Yeah.
You notice something like that?
With SWAT,
Yeah.
yeah, with some guys, I didn't see it so much with our team, but some other teams near us, um, you definitely see the egos get boosted real quick.
Why do you
Yeah,
think
for
that
sure.
is?
I don't know, man. I think a lot of it is I don't know. I think it's an ego thing. I just feel some guys feel like they're at the top of the food chain and they're the best, and that's what it's going to be. I don't know, man. It's just the ego thing.
Yeah.
I never got it. Like I didn't care for it.
There's always a higher unit. There is always somewhere else
There's
to
always
go.
someone better than there's always someone better than you and someone better than you. There's always
Oh, yeah.
always.
There's always somebody that's stronger, faster, has more awards, has done cooler shit, can speak better,
Yep.
can do everything. They're higher rank. They can tell you what to do. It's very rare that you find it at the pinnacle, the person at the top,
Yeah.
and talk to that person. But yeah, the um, oh, so what was a typical? So you said you were bouncing between patrolman and SWAT, right? Like, what
Yeah.
percentage of your day was driving around the neighborhoods, and what percentage was SWAT? Or was it just you could be in your patrol car and then get a call and have to go suit up, put your kit on?
Yeah, it was full time in the patrol car, and then it was like usually if we were operating, if we were with SWAT, it was because like it was planned. Like, hey, tomorrow morning we have this, or next Tuesday we have this. Very rarely was there like a hasty call out. Sometimes, like if the drug investigator had like, hey, I got this search warrant, I need to get it done today, then they would have a call out and get the team in. But that wasn't so much often. Usually it's planned out.
So you're not driving around with your kit in the car for that mission set, or do
No,
you?
no, we didn't. They have take home cars now, but when I was doing that, you didn't have your own car. Like you had your own car, like when you were working, but you didn't take it home with you, so you didn't have your kit with you.
Isn't it crazy? You're 42 years old and you're saying back in my day.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. I know it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm 37 or 38, right? And I just go,
you're
oh yeah,
you're probably saying the same thing. Yeah, you're saying the same
back
thing,
when I
probably.
went, yeah, well, the military and police.
Yeah,
I messaged my buddy the other day. I was like, I'm in my prime right now. My concussion or my TBI history
yeah,
is not, but physically I
yeah,
am. But
yeah,
it's really a young man's game, a lot of these things. And
yeah,
I'm kind of at the tail end of that, even though 38-year-old me right now would beat the absolute living shit out of 28-year-old me. And 28-year-old me was a brand new Green Beret, like bad
yeah,
motherfucker. And
yeah.
so I'm proud of that part where I can look back and go, yeah, I've at least improved over where I was.
Yeah, I feel the
With
same way with that. Yeah.
yeah, what drives you to keep that up though, right? You just don't want to fall into that trap, or you just ego?
Nah, not so much ego. I like being healthy and I like physical activity, man. I like pushing myself. I like going for hard runs or a heavy ruck down the beach or CrossFit. Like I just enjoy mentally and physically putting myself through that because I feel like you're earning it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you get it because you're active, but um, and for me, like I just want to be a good example. Like I have a son, so like I want to be a good example for my son. I want him to see like, yeah, I'm in his eyes, I'm an old man, right? Because he's 12, but I want him to know like, oh, well, when I'm dad's age, I can still be really fit and in shape and do all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like I want him to see that, know that you can still do this at an older age. You know?
Yeah, this has been a struggle for me over the last few years, but it always keeps coming back to that. A lot of people looked up to me, people I
Yeah,
didn't even know,
yeah,
and I still need to be that example that I used to be when I wore the uniform. And I say
yeah,
this a lot. And my sergeant major, the day I think it was my final day, we had a little ceremony at this place I worked. And I posted a picture and I said, well, and just like that, it's over. And Sergeant Major got on there, one of the comments, and he says, it's not over, you're a Green Beret for life. I always tried to just go back to that little comment 6 years ago and go, no, it's not. You got to keep up that thing, because you always
Yeah.
have to carry that responsibility for the rest of your life. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm in a position now where, I do public speaking mostly to law enforcement, first responders. I preach physical fitness and mental health, and I'm on social media doing that. So I feel like by me not keeping up with it, who am I helping? I'm not helping myself. That's one thing, but how am I helping anybody else if I'm not practicing what I'm preaching at the same time?
Yeah,
You always want to be an example. For me, anyway, I always want to try to be an example. Like, if somebody holds me to a standard, I don't want to just hold that standard. I want to exceed it, because I'm always going to hold myself, or try to hold myself to a higher standard than anyone else would hold.
yeah, I know what you mean there, because when I get up in front of people, I want to leave, because I said earlier, right? People will make
Yeah.
up shit about being a
Oh
Green
yeah.
Beret that I never did. So when
Yeah.
I get up there, I want to leave no doubt when they see me that they go, that guy is definitely who he says he was. Even though
Yeah. Right.
almost everybody I worked with on the teams and in group and all over the place looks nothing like me. Like it's not my body type now is not ideal for longevity on the teams,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Carrying around 240 pounds of muscle is not smart when you're my height. It's
Right.
just so, but people's perception, I got to get up
Yeah.
there and everybody goes, that's it. Cause they make up wild shit. So
Yeah.
it's a
Right. For
public
sure.
perception, how you introduce
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, good on you, man. I mean, what do you think when you step up in front of people? I don't know. Even if I plan
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
get up in front of people and I know I got a speech and I got notes and stuff, until I just take a deep breath and start talking, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to say. And then just words
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. In the beginning, when I first started doing it, I was scared shitless, to be honest with you. I was like, fuck this, man. I don't like this stuff. But I wanted to do it because I felt like, the position I was in, I felt like I had an obligation to give back and try to help people out, especially, in the field I came from. It's like anything else, like you said earlier, the more you do it, the better you get, and the easier it gets. But even now, there'll be times, even in the beginning, there was times where I got up on a stage or in a setting where I was supposed to say something. I'm just kind of winging it for a few minutes and just kind of go. And for me, it's I don't care anymore. Like I'll say what I gotta say. If it's something that's personal and emotional, like I don't care. I'll say it on stage. I mean, I've been on stage with 800 people sitting out there listening to me talk, and I've had tears in my eyes. But I don't give a shit. I mean, this is me. This is my story, and I want to tell it to you. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you like it, cool. But I'm not going to hide who I am or anything like that.
Oh, there's no point in any of
Yeah.
that. And people can tell if you're full of shit or not pretty
Oh
quickly.
yeah. Yeah. People can tell pretty quick. Yeah. 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 They can tell.
You said obligation earlier. Who's your obligation to? To the new guys coming up or the future generation?
I think a lot of it's the future generation, but even guys that maybe they're on the job for a while now and they've let go of themselves and they've gotten out of shape and they feel like shit physically and mentally. But then, the message to them, like, it's not too late. You can still do something about it. And I always try to appreciate the importance of physical fitness, not just for the job, but just life in general, and for the mental, aspect of it, like I said, as first responders, as cops, we always try to just bury everything. And I think it's important that they understand early on in your career, like you're not doing yourself any favors by burying anything. You gotta have some kind of outlet. And I didn't have that when I started out because I was under that old school mentality of don't take the job home with you. But I would like to see that change a little bit, and I think it is starting to change a little bit in the new environment with first responders. But I don't think it's changing fast enough.
Can only change to a point, because I wrote down here isolated, right?
Yeah.
There's I wouldn't say nothing. Very limited circumstances and this is often a special missions unit, but everything you do in the military is at least with one person, if not a whole
Right.
team of people. And
Yeah.
so you would go do training or a class or deployment, and that could be a big unit. You come back and you're still with those people. And a lot of the times you're a junior guy, you kind of go back to the barracks and you live door to door next to those people. And then if
Yeah.
you're, senior enlisted, you go live in the houses, but you live in a neighborhood all with all other soldiers and stuff. So you never leave it there. So you're kind of always surrounded with people, and then people do isolate themselves. But with you guys, you kind of just go back to your regular life of people that don't know anything about what
Yeah.
your day was like. You could have the most ridiculous shit happen in your day, and then you got to go back to, I guess, not pretending it didn't happen.
Yeah. You kind of just pretend it didn't happen. You just kind of put it away, man. Lock it away. I've been at work a number of times where I've seen terrible shit, a death or whatever it may be, and you come home and how was work? It was fine. And you just go about your day, You just kind of throw it down in there.
Pretty fucked up.
It is fucked up. It is fucked
Yeah.
up. And that's, you got to remember, like, law enforcement or first responders in general, like, they're deployed 365 in the environment that they live in, you know? So they're out there doing it day in and day out, 365, and then they're going home, and their home is in the same area that they're doing it in 24/7, 365. Then they got to go back to being normal as if nothing ever fucking happened, It's tough.
What was that? Yeah, and I saw that. What was that? It was a reel, right? And you go to the store that's in your neighborhood where you live, and you'll see somebody that you busted. So
Oh, yeah.
you got this stress level of, oh fuck, now I've got to be on guard with my kids here in case something happens.
Yeah.
Are you always carrying even when you're off?
I used to carry a lot when I was working. I don't carry as often now. I do once in a while. I just like not having the headache of it. I know it's a terrible thing to say as a 2A person, but I enjoy not having to worry about having it with me all the time. It's kind of a rare thing for someone from my background to say that, but um, yeah,
I say the exact same thing. I
yeah,
don't carry. I hardly ever carry because I think the vast majority of the population don't understand what it would mean to have to use a pistol on somebody else.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you're like, yes, you can save your life. And yes, if you need it and you don't have it, then you'll have, if it's better to have it and not need it. I get all
yeah,
that. But God, the majority of people that would use their firearm are not ready for all of the shit that is going to happen to them afterwards. So yeah, I get what you're saying there. I lean towards I almost never carry, but if I think, but I also am able to understand situations of where I'm going.
yeah,
Okay, if I'm going to the Dollar General in the place
yeah,
that I'm like, yeah, I'll probably take it with me.
yeah.
So maybe that's some of it where you go, at least I can analyze the situation better.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the same way. It's kind of like scenario based, kind of. Like depends on where I'm going, but more often than not, I'm not. I don't have it with me. It's just I don't know, man. I don't know how to explain. It's just the freedom of not having those kinds of thoughts going on in my head. You know what I mean? It's the best way I can
Yeah, it
describe it.
takes you up. It takes you up from you could be at a 2 stress level to a 7 and nothing's
Yeah,
happening. Back to the supermarket. How do you deal with that stress of, oh, fuck, now I got to be switched on when you see somebody that you busted out at the store and you got it in the back of your mind? You're like, is this person going to take their anger out on me here in public?
yeah, that's happened. I've run into plenty of people out that I've arrested. I actually just ran into a guy I arrested. Uh, this was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I ran into him in a store, and I arrested him. See, 4 years, probably 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah. So usually, my wife knows, like, if we walk into a store to see somebody, if she's next to me, I'll like tap her or something, and she knows like to walk out or whatever it may be. Or if she sees me, acting or someone approaching me that doesn't look familiar or looks kind of sketchy, she knows to walk away. And I'll call her and text her. That's happened quite a few times actually. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, like
that's a
the
different.
the one just a couple weeks ago. The guy talked to me like he kind of looked at me and it caught me off guard, and I was like, "Fuck." So I just fucking beeline to him. I just walked over to him because he was like 12 feet from me, and I just put my hand out, and shake his hand. I was like, "Hey man, how you doing?" And he was like, "You think I'm going to shake your hand?" And I was like, "No, you don't have to." I said he was working at the store I was at. I said, "No, you don't have to. I just want to say I'm glad to see that you're doing well. Hope everything's going good for you, man." And he was like, "Yeah, whatever." And I was there, and then I walked away. I walked outside because my wife turned around and walked out, so I went back outside. Went to a different store.
I can still be shopping elsewhere now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
an
it happens.
interesting way of life, right? You live
Yeah,
where you're deployed, whereas
yeah,
in the military, that's not the case.
yeah. Yeah.
You're on your base and you do your training and you live there and then you go way far away to do your job if you ever
Yeah,
get to do your job and
yeah,
then you just get to leave.
yeah.
It's interesting.
It's different, man. It's different. You definitely gotta be on alert when you're out and about when you're doing that job.
Well, good on you, right? I mean, it's definitely just a different kind of thing and people don't just even that fact. Most
Yeah,
people, if they heard it, oh yeah, that makes sense. But they've never
yeah.
heard that fact phrased in a way of they're always living in their combat zone all the time.
All the time, dude. I mean, and it's I like to say, well, it's just a job in the sense that it's a job, right? You got bills to pay and have a family, but at the same time, it's also a way of life, man, because you really have to live your life a specific way because of situations like that. You're always on high alert. You're always on high alert.
Well, you said that arrest was about 5 years ago. So that was right before you went on this U.S. Marshals task force, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What led up to is that like selected or a nominated position?
But most agencies, there's a position, and then you put in for it, you're selected. For my agency, like I said before, we hadn't had anybody in that position before, so I kind of just approached the administration with the idea of it and kind of presented my case. Like, this is why I think we should have somebody in it. This is why I think it should be me, and it worked out.
Is that a task force that's specific to your area?
So it's the way it works is the task force is made up from a number of agencies around the state, and you're assigned to the Marshals task force, which is based to have like one specific office. Um, so the way it would work is like I would handle violent fugitive cases from my agency, but I would also handle fugitive warrant or high. They have to be high level, high risk warrants. So like a violent felony for the marshals to have it. So like rape, murder, homicide, armed robbery, whatever it may be. It has to be a violent felony. But I would also handle cases from like other agencies in the state that were like maybe they didn't have anybody on the task force, but they had a fugitive and they needed somebody. They needed help getting it, so they would call the marshal's office and say, "Hey, we got this guy wanted for homicide. Can you guys work on this?" And they would say, "Okay, well, who's the closest task force officer we had to the agency?" "Okay, well, it's TJ, so this is going to be your case working." Kind of like that. And then you also had like other states that would have fugitives like in Delaware that they located. So like you would have like, for instance, the one that we're going to talk about. That guy was wanted out of Pennsylvania, so we were apprehending him for Pennsylvania.
So are you specific to the borders of Delaware?
No, we with the marshals we could go anywhere in the United States to apprehend a fugitive.
So
Yeah,
are you given like a special jurisdictional?
yeah, they swear you in as like they call it a special deputy. You're sworn in as a special deputy
Okay.
with all the powers of a U.S. Marshal while you're working the marshal's cases. Yeah, you're kind of like sworn in there, so you have everything that they have.
You get a cool
You have
badge.
all, Yeah, you got a cool fucking badge. I got my retirement one in here, I think. Where's that? That's one I got when I left
Fuck, that's badass, man.
with my ID and stuff on it. Yeah. So, pretty cool, man. It
Why
was
is
a
it on the
good gig.
floor?
Man, I gotta hang shit up here. I got shit all over the place.
The
I
more
got
shit
shit
you
all
hang
over the
on the
place.
walls, the better your sound will get too.
Yeah, I know. I got so much stuff in here, dude. I got stuff everywhere. I gotta get hung up. That shit just laying on the floor everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was cool. It was a cool gig, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll bet. And you get to work with all these other different agencies, different state agencies. And I imagine that, they're not sending shitbags to work in this sort of
No.
environment because the marshals wouldn't tolerate that, right? So,
Yeah, these are good dudes. These are good, solid dudes, man. It's like I said before, it was the most fun I ever had in that job.
well, you say it, it's the most fun you ever had. So it must have been more fulfilling than your everyday, calls, because you probably were starting to see things over and over again in your patrolling, right?
Yeah, well, you're dealing with different stuff now. You're not dealing with like the typical day to day, domestic or shoplifter or whatever the hell it may be. You're straight. You're working straight fugitive cases, so it's a lot of surveillance. It's a lot of operations where you're kicking indoors. It's a full time tactical environment, so it's just a lot of fun, man.
What's the stress level compared to where you were to then that task force?
I would say your stress level gets a little higher because you're dealing with a higher caliber criminal, I guess you could say. But you settle into it once you realize, you're with a group, you're with a good group of guys, and you get some training in, and you get to know everybody, how each person operates, how each person moves. You get into your flow. Um, I feel like it's like it's like you said before, man. The more you do it, the more you get used to it, the better you get, and that's kind of how it was. You just fall into a flow, and it was just day by day, boom, boom, boom.
Is there any ancillary training in that type of unit, or is it just what you brought with you?
They send me some training here and there. Like we went away as a team every year for like a week, and then I went to some other trainings. They sent me out to Arizona for like a week long training with the Marshal Service. So they send you around to like some certain things that the Marshal Service will offer. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Budget must be, there's probably, is the budget better than back home? Is there any complaints about, oh, we don't have, that's not in the budget anymore?
Not so much, man. Like if you need something, they found a way to get it to you.
What would something be needed?
And like if you wanted like if you were a breacher and you wanted a new RAM, like I need a new RAM, they're like, all right, yeah, we'll get you a RAM. Or if you need a new shield, yeah, we'll get you a shield. Are you a shield guy? No. Do you want one? Yeah. All right, yeah, we'll have a spare one. Put it in my truck. Like whatever you needed, it you got it. It was great, man. You needed a new plate carrier, or you wanted new plates, you wanted this, that, and the other. You just put in for it, and usually you get it.
Yeah. I like
Yeah, it
that.
was good. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's got to be, I mean, having the tools to be successful,
Yeah.
it mitigates injury, it mitigates death, all kinds of
Yeah.
shit. If you're working with your hand tied behind your back, that's a non-starter, right? Do you see a lot of that from, just your everyday hometown police departments, is where they're just fighting, we got to do more with less sort of attitude?
Oh yeah, man. That shit was all the time. Especially like with training. With training. Like, oh well, I'd like to get this training in. Well, we don't have the money for that. Or like I'll give you a prime example. When I was in canine, I wanted to go to this canine school with my dog. And they turned it down because they used the leftover money in my canine training budget to buy new furniture for the secretary. So shit like that. That was a common theme, shit like that. Kind of like what you're seeing on the news right now with Doge. A lot of wasteless spending on useless shit. Which is a whole nother topic in itself.
If, me and my couple listeners here, if they actually are able to uncover all of the wasteful spending, Americans would be shocked, you know. So there is, I mean, we left, we'll call it $100 billion in equipment in Afghanistan or some shit like that.
That could be used against us.
So
Yeah.
whatever.
Wow.
Burn it all down. Burn it all down.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Burn it all
complaining.
down.
I'm like, yeah, people are going to lose their jobs. They can get the job back.
Yeah.
Just, burn it all down. But whatever. Everybody's
Yeah.
always, they clamor for a change in the system. But when that system is available, they'll push back against it with all their
Yeah.
might, in default for the status quo.
Yeah. So think about all that useless spending on that shit, and think about what the government could actually do for law enforcement in this country with actual training that they might need with some of that money. You know what I mean? But everybody wants to bitch about defund the police, or they want to bitch about, well, they don't have enough training. Well, they don't have enough training, so why don't you use some of this fucking money you've been pissing away and help out some cops around this country? That's what you should be doing.
Yeah, training. We don't want to pay overtime.
That was always a big one. Overtime, yeah, that was a big one. That was a
Um,
big one. That was one thing. Like when I was with the Marshals, that wasn't an issue. They paid if I was working a Marshals case, they paid my overtime, and you had a budget for it, but it was a large budget. So if you had work to do, you could do the work.
so you were still out of your local police department and just being pulled from there. That was your home base still?
Yeah, but there would be days I wouldn't even go to my own police department. I would go wherever I was going with my team, and sometimes that would be in state. Sometimes that might be like in a surrounding state. Yeah.
Everybody on the team that you had pretty similar background to you.
Yeah, one of the guys on the team is one of my best friends still to this day. Very similar background. He did narcotics. He did everything I did. Another guy, similar background. He wasn't a SWAT guy. He got into tactics. He got moved to the Marshals and got trained up on tactics there and continued with that and became really good. And another guy was same kind of thing. He had some tactical background, but I got a lot more of it once he got on the task force. But a lot of similar backgrounds. So yeah.
I guess that's helpful, right? I mean, when you come in and kind of everybody's got a basic set of skills.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you go to that task force, they don't have like a mandate where it's like, okay, you're on a task force now, you have to have this basic training. They don't have that. I wish they did. I think they should have that. Like if for all of those task forces, whether it be the Marshals or ATF, whatever, I feel like there should be like, okay, now you're on this task force. Now you need to go to this basic, TFO school where you have to get caught up on like this is how we do things, like a standard. You know what I mean?
So you got to work with the Marshals, right? And so here's how it is in my unit. So special operations units, right? You got Green Berets on the Army side. You got Green Berets, Army Rangers, and then there's Navy SEALs. Air Force has a couple special operations, Marine Raiders. Everybody's got their own different skill set, right?
Yeah.
And then there's Tier 1 units, which known as Delta Force or SEAL Team 6 and things like that. When you were working with the Marshals, did you ever encounter another unit where you're like, wow, I'd like to look at those guys, or think about them as that next level that you wanted to achieve or you wanted to work with? Or did you ever work with anything like that?
When I was with the Marshals, no, but when I was in K9, I didn't get to work with them because they came in and did their own fucking thing. But I was around some FBI SWAT guys, and those guys were no fucking joke.
Like
They were
how
just same thing, like how they carry themselves. Everything was square. Their gear was squared away. Their demeanor was fucking squared away. You could tell those guys were just like, it was mission before all. Like we're in this. You know what I mean? It was just you could tell the caliber, and already know that the caliber of those guys is through the roof.
yeah, a lot of those guys are coming from units similar to
Right.
mine or other
Exactly.
ones.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, there's no room for bullshit in some of those units.
Exactly. You could tell there was no room for bullshit in those units. You could just tell it was like they weren't assholes, but they were like, we're not here to fucking chit chat with you boys. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
It is interesting when you run across that, right? And you're living your life this way, and then you
Yeah.
see the other side of the fence and you go, well, I wonder if I could do that. Did you ever have
Yeah.
that thought run across your
Maybe.
mind?
Oh yeah. When I was on the job, yeah, like, oh, maybe I should have went this route. Maybe I should have went that route, or whatever it may be. But now looking back, it's like I'm happy with the route I take because I really like where I am in life right now, and everything that happened to me and everywhere I went in life has put me where I am in this moment. And I like where I'm at the moment. So
Yeah. Part of me says that. Part of me
Yeah,
says that all the time. And then
yeah,
part of me is like, God, I'd cut off my left arm to put my uniform on one more time.
yeah. I had a lot of that too when I retired. Like I just wanted to go back and say I was able to go back and do it again. But I didn't have that option. It wasn't up to me. So yeah,
Well, yeah. I mean, well, shit happens, right?
shit happens,
got
man.
hurt. I got hurt.
Yeah,
You almost lost your life there.
yeah, yeah.
So you got, obviously, it's kind of in the name, U.S. Marshals Violent Fugitive Task Force. What qualifies as a violent fugitive?
So any violent felonies, so that would be anything like murder, attempted murder, any sort of crime involving like a weapon, so like armed robbery, burglary, things like that. And once in a while, you might get like some bullshit high end like financial thing or something you gotta go handle, which is not really violent. It's just high priority because it's high dollar fucking crime. But usually it's the latter. It's all like weapons offenses.
So incentive to not want to go back to prison.
Yeah, yeah. People who have nothing to lose. Kidnapping cases, things like that. A lot of it is violent assaults and up to homicides.
Delaware's not really a state that's on the way to anywhere. So
Well, we're
is it?
central is our thing. We're central. We're like we're 4 hours south of New York. Where the top of Delaware is 20 minutes to Philly. Where I'm at in Delaware, I'm 2 hours to Baltimore. I'm 2 hours to DC. I'm 3 hours to Virginia Beach. So it's very central.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So you'd be getting people going out of those big cities.
yeah. You get a lot of that, and like I-95 runs through like the top portion of Delaware, so you get a lot of communal.
Is that where the majority of your business was, up that way?
Yeah, I mean, kind of 50-50. You get a lot of it down here too, like in the where I'm at, like in the lower counties. There's three counties in Delaware, so like in the lower half of Delaware, we get a lot of a lot of crime down here just in general. With like our local population too. But you also get a lot of people down here that like hide out. They come from New York or PA or whatever it may be, and they try to come down here because they know somebody. They're camping out down here.
What was that first mission you went on where you're like, I can't believe I get paid to do this shit?
Oh man, I think it was actually my first stop with the Marshals. We took a drive down to Virginia. My first my first day there, we took a drive down to Virginia. It was like a 3 hour drive. We rode down there, did a quick brief, rode up to a house, kicked the door, brought out the bad guy, loaded him up, passed him off to whoever we had to pass him off to, and then we drove home. And I was like, "This is the shit." You know what I mean? Like we just drove down here 3 hours, kicked in some random door in some trailer park, nabbed the guy up, and now we're just rolling back home for lunch. Like this is fucking sweet, man. I'm gonna do this every day. This is awesome.
Any paperwork associated with that?
Not with that one because it wasn't my case. Like that's the great part about it. You're just kind of like almost like a ghost. You know what I
So
mean?
you just augmentee for the arresting unit in that case?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
got to be the best, right? I get to do your
It's
job.
awesome. Yeah,
You want
yeah.
a large fry with that, sir, or you want a small fry? And then just on your way out of there.
Out of there, man. I loved it, dude. It's just one of those jobs where it's like, your agency's trusting you with a lot of freedom because they're putting you out there with people that don't work for them. They don't know, and they have no idea what you're doing because your job is just switches. Everything you're doing switches in a minute. Like in 1 minute, I'm waking up in the morning to go do surveillance 10 minutes from my house. And then you get there, and it's like 10 minutes later. It's like, oh hey, we gotta go up to New York because we got this, whatever just popped up, and all of a sudden you're driving to fucking New York for some random reason. Like it was exciting, man. There's always something changing, you know, very fluid.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, it's got to be intoxicating, right? And you just keep
Yeah,
feeding off of it.
yeah,
Um, was,
yeah,
was there, because there is an R unit, because every once in a while, dumb shit comes up. You're like, what the fuck is this? Was there
yeah.
just less of that? Because it has to still be there.
There's still some of it, but nowhere near to the level of like being back working regular patrol or whatever it may be at your agency. Yeah, I mean, it was nowhere near to that level. Nowhere near.
So do you just, because you're being pulled from your agency, is it how does your position get backfilled when you're not there? Is that just
So I still had a responsibility at my agency to work drug cases. Um, so I kind of, which drugs and violent crime got hand in hand anyway. So sometimes it worked out. But at that point, I wasn't handling a lot of drug cases just because my chief had backed off on me doing so much of it, just because of the political environment. He didn't want us going out and kicking in doors for drugs and shit like that. So I backed down on my caseload with it and just started working a shit ton of fugitive cases. So
was that more satisfying?
the fugitives,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. That was yeah, I enjoyed it. The drug thing was fun, man. It just gets old. It's like I'm out here fucking meeting with shitbag informants and then hanging out in these shit ass houses. It's just like, for what? It's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely a more dynamic environment, but
Yeah. It was fun. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I did it. It just wasn't. It was just different than the fugitive stuff.
yeah, everything gets old though after a while.
Yeah.
And you were there, let's see, I'm going to put you up on that one for like 4 or 5 years, you said?
Yeah, somewhere around 4 years, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Because your time abruptly ended and not by your own choice.
Yeah.
Um, like, and that's always a danger in our community, right? But generally it's, deployed, the fear of getting killed or getting injured while you're deployed. But if you look at the numbers, more guys get killed in garrison, like in car wrecks or training even.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just my flotation device not working away from not surviving.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have been out there. But, a lot of guys get killed in training, get killed in this thing, but to be doing your job, it's got to be a fear. Was that always in the back of your mind, or was it just you've been doing it so long that you just were, okay, it's just how it is. We're just doing the job.
Yeah, I think you just kind of get used to it. It's kind of like, this is our job. This is what we do. You kind of like, I think you think about it, but you kind of like shove it over there. You know what I mean? Kind of like everything else, you just kind of put it away.
I guess it's easier to not think about it because we would deploy. Okay. My guys would deploy and they'd go and get into gunfights. They know they're going to get shot at. So that's one of the main mitigating things they got to mitigate is bullets flying at them. Whereas 99% or even more of the calls that you go on, no one's going to shoot at you, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that because of that ratio of the bad shit actually happening to when it doesn't happen, guys get lax?
I think it's very easy to get lax in law enforcement because you don't have bullets flying all the time. You know what I mean? And things just get old, gets mundane. You know what I mean? Like you're doing the same shit over and over again. So there is a little bit of that. You get a little lax sometimes, and then once in a while something will happen that puckers you back up and you get your shit right again. And we had a lot of that. Working in that unit, we had a lot of that. We had a lot of close calls. So like working patrol, you get lackadaisical. I think in the unit that I went to, you stay on high alert for the most part when I was with the Marshals, just because of the caliber of cases that you're handling, and because we were always pulling guns off people, so you always knew like you were going to have most of the time we apprehend somebody, there was some sort of fucking weapon on. It's just a matter if they were able to get it out or not.
Yeah, well, it's in the name, right? Violent fugitive, and as I said, there's not a lot of incentive to go back to prison in their case if the Marshals are after them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you must have gone on some crazy things. Was the day you got hurt, anything stand out about it going into that was different from anything you'd done in the past?
No, everything was exactly the same, man. Nothing was nothing like, threw up any, questionable signs or made my hair stand up or anything like that. Just kind of normal. Like, it's going to knock this out and get back for dinner.
Do you use that when you talk to people today? Because you've done this thing quite a few times, nothing different, and you don't know when your time's going to be up or when your life's going to change. And you just got to be living right now and living the shit. Do you tell people that? Like, there was nothing
Yeah.
different about this day.
Yeah, man. I tell guys that all the time. You don't know. You don't know, man. It could happen to you. I mean, it could happen to you. It could happen to me. And when we get done this podcast, like pull that driveway and get hit by a fucking semi. You know what I mean? Like you don't know. You don't know what's going to be your time. That's my biggest thing now, man. Is like if there's something you want to do, like you doing your podcast, like you always wanted to do it, and now you're doing it. That's how people should be. You got something you want to do, go fucking do it, because clock's not going to stop for you, man. It runs out on all of us at some point, you know.
Yeah, I've said to people, I think that's going to be real torture when you're
Yeah,
sitting in the old folks' home and you're looking back at all the shit. You're not dead, but you
could
can't
should
do
have would.
anything. And you
Yeah,
just, the stuff that you're going to look back, I wish I did that. I wish I would have started that thing. I wish I would have taken the initiative. That's going to be real torture. Just
yeah,
looking back and saying, oh man, I fucked up. And just to sit with that. I mean, we sit with it now, but at least we can do something about it.
yeah.
So obviously, we don't just write a book called Just One More about all of the shit that happened to you. Take me through that day and what leads up to, being injured as you were and starting the Fit for Duty Foundation. What led all up to that?
So yeah, the day of that, it was like any other day, man. We went to work in the morning, had a full day doing whatever we were doing. I don't even remember what the hell we did that day, and then got home like around 5 o'clock, which was kind of rare because we usually worked a little later most days. I was getting dinner ready with the family, and then our supervisor put out a group text for availability for an op in the morning. Pennsylvania had warrants on a guy that they thought was at a hotel in our area, and they wanted to see who was available to help out. So got all the information on the suspect and the location, and I was, well, shit, man, this hotel's like 10 minutes from my house. So I was like, I'll slip out. I got permission. Like, I'll slip out real quick, give me the vehicle info, and I'll see if I can get eyes on the vehicle or him and verify that the guy's there, right? So I head on out there, pull in the parking lot of this hotel, and see the car. So I take up a parking spot, verify the tag, call my supervisor up, verify all that, and then sure enough, dude walks out of the hotel, matches the description, matches a photo, registration matches registration, and then he had his girlfriend and her two small kids with him, which matched up with the intel we had. So I let them get in the car. I let them leave because I'm by myself, and I knew they were coming back because they weren't loading up any luggage or anything. It's dinner time, so they're probably going to get something to eat and come back later, right? So give them a few minutes to clear the area, and then I leave, head back home, and I get back home, man, and it's just like it just wasn't sitting right with me. You know, we're a violent fugitive task force. Our whole job is based around locating and apprehending violent fugitives, and I just located one. And now it's like, it's 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, whatever it is, and we're going to wait till tomorrow morning to go get the dude. I'm like, fuck that, man. Like, what if he does leave in the middle of the night? What if he gets pulled over sometime tonight by some random traffic cop who doesn't know what they're pulling over, and shit goes bad, right? So I talk it over with my team guys, and they agree. Talk it over with the boss. He's like, "All right, if you want to do it tonight, like let's, we'll put it out to the rest of the team." So get permission to do the op that night. So I head back out, take up the same parking spot I was in before. Two of my other teammates get there, set up a perimeter around the building, and now we gotta come up with what the game plan is going to be because we have about 10 other guys coming from various areas, north end of the state. We got some guys coming from Salisbury, Maryland team, which is about 45 minutes away. So we got a lot of hands coming to help out. But if this dude comes back before they get there, what are we going to do? Are we going to sit tight and let him get back in his hotel room and wait for the team, or are we going to just take him in the parking lot with the three of us? And ultimately, what we decided was if he gets back there before the rest of the team, we're just going to take him in the parking lot. We're going to try to box him and take him there because we felt that by letting him get back in that hotel was going to be the worst possible thing with, hostage situation with the girlfriend and her two small kids, a murder-suicide. If we go up there and try to breach this door and get into a shootout at the threshold of this doorway, we can't return fire now because there's innocent people in there, not to mention innocent people in other rooms. So it just sounded like a complete train wreck. So we thought, all right, if he comes back, we're just going to box him in. If he parks in that front row, like he was before, The front of his vehicle is going to be blocked by the building, and we'll pin the driver's side, passenger side, and the rear. So sure enough, dude comes back, pulls in the parking lot, does a lap around the whole complex, doing counter surveillance probably, and then he pulls back in, almost in the exact same parking spot he left at. This spot he parked next to an unrelated vehicle on the driver's side, which prevented my one partner from pinning that driver's side door, so he couldn't open it. So I give the command execute. So we pull in. I come in from the rear. My one partner, George, comes in from the passenger side. And Josh comes up on the driver's side as much as he could without, getting up on the door because there's another vehicle there. So he had to stop pretty short of it. And then I come in from the rear. And I came in from the rear to pin his vehicle, but I came in at like a really shitty angle just because of my vehicle position. I couldn't come in straight on, and pin that bumper. So I came in at a really shitty angle, and when I came in, I was like, hit the brake and was stone up and park. And as soon as I was stone up in the park, I knew it. I was like, fuck, I'm exposed. So sure enough, wheels are in motion at this point, right? So I opened my door up. I had a handgun with me. I had a long gun, but I transitioned to handgun once we decided we were going to do it with three of us because I didn't want a long gun out there swinging in case things got physical. So I put that away and transitioned to my handgun. So transition my handgun, get out, deploy out, and as soon as I open my door up, I'm looking down the driver's side of his vehicle. So I step out, and as soon as I'm out on 2 feet, I see his driver's side door open up. I see a little bit of a face pop out, and then I see a hand punch out with muzzle flashes. And at this point, I'm about 6 feet from him. I'm at the rear quarter panel of his car because that's where my car fucking stopped, and then he's leaning out the door. So he starts cranking rounds. I'm not sure how many he cranked out. I start returning fire. My first round goes into his door, just misses him. He comes out on 2 feet, starts cranking more rounds. I get 2 more rounds off, striking center mass. Dude didn't even feel it. I didn't even know I hit the guy until like 2 days later. But I struck him center mass. One of the rounds actually lodged in his spinal cord. Didn't even feel it. He kept cranking rounds at me. He ended up landing 6. I took one through my left shoulder. I took one through my left hand. I took one off my plate carrier, ricocheted, landed in my chin. 2 in my right arm. And then I took one in my right femur just below my hip socket. That's when it dropped me at the back quarter panel. And now I'll get into Josh and George, what their roles were at this point in a minute. But so I go down to the back of the vehicle, and now I'm on the ground. I've lost my gun because my hand took a round, and then when I fell, I landed on top of my other hand with my gear and crushed it. So now my hands are completely out of commission. So now I'm on the ground, and my head's covered by the rear of his tire, so I can't see him. And I can't see Josh and I can't see George because of the way they're positioned. So I just hear gunfire going off, and I don't know if the guy's still cranking rounds at me, if he's cranking it at them. I don't know what's going on. So I'm lying there for a minute, man. I got all this shit going through my head, life and death. I'm thinking about my wife, thinking about my son, and I get this voice come in my head, man, like out of nowhere. And it's just like fucking screaming at me, telling me that I failed. And saying, you failed. You fucking failed, and now they're going to pay for it. I could see my wife and I could see my son right there, man, like in front of me. It was like, it felt like, just felt real. And it started, this is all happening in seconds, split seconds, but it felt like an eternity. And that voice was just cranking away at me, screaming and telling me I'm a failure. And ultimately, that voice is really what played a big role in, I feel, saving my life, because that's what made me realize, like, dude, you ain't failed yet, but you're about to if you don't get your shit moving. Like, you need to look for work. So I used my left leg and my elbows, and I just pushed and crawled and kind of shoved myself underneath the back of his body, or underneath the back of his car, to try to conceal as many vital parts as I could. And my hope was, if he did try to take a couple steps to finish me, he might crank some of my legs and I don't bleed out. That's my best hope. So as that's going on, George actually sends around to him from the passenger side of the vehicle, strikes the guy in the side. He takes off running, runs by me as I'm crawling underneath the car, turns to his right and sees my other partner. As he's running past him, he starts cranking rounds at him. And now my two partners, Josh and George, kind of converge on him in the parking lot after give or take about 75 yards he ran. Then he goes down out in the middle of the parking lot. I think he took somewhere around 10 rounds before he went down. He was in the middle of a reload, actually. He went down. Yeah, he was in the middle of a reload when he went down. So he goes down. They converge on him. It's just the two of them. And then I'm laying underneath the car. They don't know what my status is. Hotel starts emptying out with people. It's a shit-ass hotel, you know. They start emptying out when people are yelling, you just murdered that guy, so on and so forth. So now they got to make a decision, like, what are we going to do? Well, they decide real quick, like instantly. One's going to run back to me and evac my ass out of there, and the other one's going to stay, cover the suspect on the ground, and do his best to cover himself until other officers get there. So my one partner comes over, drags me out from around the car, sees my legs fucked up, tourniquets it, picks me up, drags me over to his car, throws me in the back seat, and we're off to the fucking hospital. And he did everything textbook. Josh did everything textbook, man. He was a designated evac. He had his phone on the dashboard programmed with the nearest hospital in the GPS, just like we always do in our pre-ops. And as soon as he pulls out of the parking lot and banks right, phone goes off the fucking dashboard, rolls underneath the seat, fucking loses it. So he has no idea where he's going because he's not from there. He lives like a little over an hour away. But I live in that area, so I know, and I'm still conscious alert. So I'm in the back seat, and we're driving south on the highway, and I'm seeing all these billboards and restaurants and shit that I know. And I'm like, we're talking. He's communicating, like, stay with me, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, bro, you going south? He's like, yeah, man. Da, 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 da. I'm like, you got to turn this bitch around, dude. Like, we're hospital's northbound. So he gets her cranked around after like 2 red lights. It wasn't super far. We start heading northbound, and now he's communicating with like, the radio and cell phone and shit. And then I say I think it was within like a minute after we pulled out of the parking lot, some other units started arriving on scene to help out George with the cluster that was going on there. So we're heading north, and we're still communicating a little bit, but he's got a job to do. So same thing with me. I got a job to do. I got to look for work. I can't just lay there and hope for the best. I got to find something that's going to help me out any way I can. But the problem was I couldn't tighten my tourniquet. I couldn't take my gear off. I couldn't check my wounds because both my hands were fucking busted. So I went into combat breathing, man, because I was pumping some blood, and I knew I needed to slow my heart rate down. And for me, like going back to the whole fitness thing, that was something I worked on all the time. Ironmans, marathons, CrossFit. I was in pretty good shape at this point. So working on like breathing patterns was something I try to do regularly, especially like with swimming, because I swam a lot for Ironmans. And I started going into combat breathing to try to slow that up. And once I got that in check, I just started trying to think further ahead, man. I just tried to like keep moving on, like what's next. And the next thing was, I'm going to get to the hospital. They're going to knock me out. And then at some point, I'm going to wake up. And whenever that is, I had already convinced myself that my right leg was gone. Like, it's just totally fucked. They're going to take it. I'll be an amputee, and I'll roll with it, dude. People do it every day. Look at Nick Lavery, dude. The guy's an animal. He's an amputee. He's in better shape than I am. He's an animal, right? People do it every day, man.
Green Beret.
Yeah, exactly. He's a Green Beret, man. Dude's a beast. Like, so I was like, you know what, dude? Take my leg, man, because I'm gonna heal up, and I'm gonna get back at it, and I'm gonna be back at it. That was my thought. I just wanted to survive. And the hope was, like, when I did wake up in the hospital, the thought process was I didn't want to look down and be surprised that I lost it. I want to look down and be surprised I still had it. And that's luckily, jump ahead. That's what happened. I was able to keep it, thankfully. I just had a rod and stuff put in there. But we get to the hospital, and here's the crazy part of it is
it gets crazy now.
Yeah, it gets crazy now. So my partner Josh pulls up to the ER doors, and they drag me out of it, take me in. But as he's pulling up, the engine dies, and we roll up to the door where the engine died, because what had happened was when he came up out of holster, his first round actually went into his own engine block. And somehow the fucking vehicle stayed running all the way until the fucking hospital, until it died. So I always tell everybody, man, like, I don't know how much I ever believed in higher bidding, but I sure as fuck do now. I can tell you that. Because that was just
What,
it's a wild
Crown
thing.
Vic or a Ford Chevy?
No, we worked in plenty vehicles. He had a Jeep Cherokee. Yeah, the thing was like the Marshals take care of it. The Marshals bought it for him. It's all leather. Thing was, he just got it like a couple months prior, and he loved this fucking thing, dude. And here's a funny part of the story. Talk about sick mentality, attitudes, cracking jokes, and busting each other's balls all the time. I was laying in the back, fucking shot 6 times, fucking bleeding out everywhere, spitting blood everywhere because I got a round in my mouth. And I'm like, I'm apologizing to him. He's like, man, you don't have to apologize. Like, it's going to be okay. We're going to get you there. But I was like, I know, dude, but I'm fucking spitting blood all over the back of your seat right here. And I know how much you love this fucking car. But, looking back, it's just, you're in shock, but you're also like, you're still you. Like, you're still cracking jokes and trying to keep yourself in
you got to keep
That's
the light in the mood. I'd have been telling you, oh, it's okay. They're going to take it out of your check, you fucker.
Yeah, right. It's same kind of shit, man. You still have that mentality going, even in those kinds of situations. But so we get there and they wheel me in, they go my shit off, and the last thing I remember being there is them trying to get my carrier off and shit, and then they knocked me out. But as that's all going on, somebody's got to notify my wife. So at the time, we lived with my in-laws. My wife and I sold our house, and that week we were just about to break ground on a new house we were building. So we were living with our parents. I'd say within about 15 minutes of the shooting, maybe 10, she was getting text messages from like random friends asking her if she needed anything, if she was okay. People were talking about it on Facebook. But there was no names attached or anything on Facebook. Excuse me. Just that the Marshals had been in a shooting in that area, which she knew I was there. So this is going on for a minute or so, and then she finally gets a phone call from her friend whose husband's on the job at another agency, and my wife's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, no one's told me anything. So she tells my wife, like, TJ's been shot. And he's at the hospital. So she was reading my son a bedtime story when she got the call. Actually, she was laying in bed with my son. He was 7. So she calmly puts him down, puts him to bed, says goodnight, and then she goes down to my father-in-law, who drives her to the hospital. And then while en route to the hospital, she gets a call from my department for the actual notification. But there were a lot of things my department could have done differently to make it a little speedier process. But at the end of the day, I can't really blame them, because you're not going to beat cell phones, you're not going to beat social media and word of mouth, especially like in a small area like that. Delaware's a small state. That community of first responders even smaller, so word travels fast. So there's not much they could have done about that. But she gets to the hospital. She's there for a little bit with me. I'm unconscious, so I don't see her. They intubate me. They fly me out to another hospital that's about a little over an hour north. And then my wife gets driven up there. They keep me under. That was on a Thursday night. Friday comes. I had my first round of surgery, so I get a rod in my leg, hip socket and kneecap. I get pins and plates in both my hands, my thumbs. Get some shrapnel dug out of me. Later on, a few months later, I had a couple of bullets that were stuck in me. They had to pull out a couple months later. But I get all that done on Friday. And then Friday night, I'm down in recovery. They're starting to bring me out of it a little bit. And I remember seeing like a flash of my wife and like a flash of my parents. And I was out, so I thought it was like a dream. But that was them saying goodbye. This is December of 2020, so fucking COVID.
Yeah.
So hospital kicked them out because I wasn't allowed to have visitors. They kicked my family out. Saturday, I'm in a recovery room and no visitors. Can't see family, wife, parents, son. Can't see anybody. But I had an officer from my agency and a deputy from the Marshal Service with me 24/7. So I always had 2 guys with me, which was great. I was never alone. So I ended up being in ICU for 7 days. And what I'm being told is you're looking at like a 2-year recovery in this. We don't really know what's going on with your hands because they're pretty basically shattered. So we can't really tell you what it's going to be because you need to have a number of surgeries. And then my leg is, they're saying up to 2 years, 18 to 24 months before you can start trying to run again. And that was like devastating, dude, to hear all that. And because, fitness was a big part of my life, So I'm in there for 7 days chewing on that. And then the day 7 comes, they're releasing me, but they're transporting me to a live-in rehab facility. So that day they allow my wife up. So she comes up, she comes in the room. The guys all leave, give us our space. And I remember she walked over to my right side of the bed. And I remember the first things out of my mouth were, "I'm sorry I failed you." First thing I said to her. And for a while I regretted saying it. But I don't. After I chewed on that for a while, I didn't so much regret it because that was true that she needed to hear. And also, when I said that, man, without skipping a beat, dude, she looked right back at me square in the eye and said, "You've never failed me. And you're not going to." And that was the moment that launched it for me. That's where that mindset really kicked in and said, "We're getting this fucking done."
Yeah, we go right to the negative, don't we?
Yeah, we go right to the negative, man. But she held it together, man. She held it together, and she put my mind where it needed to be. As hard as that probably was for her to do in that moment, she knew it had to be done. And we spend some moments together. Then we go down. They wheel me downstairs to load me on an ambulance, and I get to see my son now for the first time. He was 7, like I said. So, I'm all fucked up. I had long hair at the time, down my chest. So my hair's all fucked up. I got big old mitts on my hands because they're all broken. I got I got an external fixator in my hand, so I got pins sticking out of it everywhere. My legs all wrapped up on this hospital blanket. I'm crying like you've never seen. And my son's seeing all this. He's never seen me cry or look like this. And I remember seeing him, man, and he just looked he looked lifeless. There was just no life in him. He was just scared, confused, just shattered, And that really fucking hurt me. That he had to see me like that. So they loaded me up on this ambulance, and the ambulance crew they were awesome, man. They were legit. They're basically, fuck COVID. If your family wants to go on the ambulance and ride with us, it's a 45-minute ride, hour ride. They're pile them in. So my son and my wife jump in the ambulance. We're going to take this ride down to this rehab facility that I'm going to live in for a couple weeks. And as far as the ride goes, it was good for my son. I got to, loosen up, tell some jokes, get him relaxed a little bit, which was great. But the back of that ambulance had 2 windows on that back door, little square glass windows. And I remember on that ride just staring out that window and seeing that long ass procession of red and blue lights behind it. And I was you would think, well, that's cool, man. That's support, and it is. But the first thing that came to my mind was all those processions, just like that I had been in over at that time, 17 years, of people who weren't as lucky as I was. And that goes back to, a shift mate and friend who lost his life, another friend who lost his life, countless friends on this job who have lost their lives, guys and girls that I don't know that have lost their lives on this job that I've been in those processions. And that really started kicking me in the ass with the survivor's guilt stuff. So that ate at me, especially in that moment. So we get down to this live-in facility, and we get down there. It's about 8 o'clock at night, 7:30 at night or something. And they wheeled me out of the ambulance so quick I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye to my son, but they wheeled me out, take me up to give me my own room there. And we go up there. It's me and my wife and 2 or 3 administrators from this physical therapy facility. It's a quick meet and greet, oh, this is who we are, blah, blah, blah. We'll be back in the morning to, brief you on what's going to be like. you can't have any visitors because it's COVID, but we're going to make an exception and we'll allow your wife up and only your wife as much as she wants between the visiting hours, which are 8 to 8. And I was like, I'll take it. So first night there was rough, man. That was my first. You got to figure this is day 7. This is a Thursday. I got shot the prior Thursday, and I had not had 1 second to myself.
Yeah.
Not 1 second. I mean, not 1 second. I couldn't go to the bathroom on my own, so I had to go to the bathroom laying in a bed with nurses. Like, I was never alone for 1 fucking second. So now it's like shit's piling in my head, you know? Like, how bad is this going to be? How am I going to get through this? Am I going to be a fucking burden to my wife? There's just no answers for shit. And don't sleep much. And then about 06 comes, and it was an in-swing door to my room. The door swung in when the nurse came in at 06 for like meds and shots and shit I had to get. And I remember that light coming in from the hallway. And it made me think about a book that I had read about 6 or 7 years prior. A book that I hadn't picked up since. But you know, like sometimes like shit happens and your brain remembers shit.
Oh, yeah.
Like for a reason, you know. And my brain kicked it in, man. It was like, hey, remember that book you read 6 or 7 years ago? This is a good opportunity to fall back on this book. And the book was The Try It by Jason Redman. And I won't get into Jay's story for you guys listening. You can look him up. But Jay was a SEAL who was severely injured and spent a lot of time in Walter Reed. And during his time in Walter Reed, he came up with this idea for the sign on the door, which was basically a sign he made up. And he basically wrote out on it a message that was uplifting and how much he just didn't want self-pity. It was a motivational tool he used. And I thought about that, and I thought, man, that's a really fucking good idea, dude. That I'm at the point where like I'll take whatever I can get. So my wife comes up at 8, and I'm like, hey, I need some poster board and a marker. This is what I'm gonna do. So she's like, all right. So she gets it, and she's like, what do you want me to write? I'm like, I want you to stick that pen inside this fucking oven mitt I have in my hand. I'm just going to write it out like a fucking Etch-a-Sketch or something. You know what I mean? I'll make it work. So I made up this sign for my door and put a couple of my patches on it, signed it the best I could, and my wife taped it up on the door. And dude, it was like 2 minutes, and I had staff in there asking me, like, what's wrong? Who pissed you off? Like, what happened? And, you know, and I'm like, dude, I've been here for 12 hours. Nobody's pissed me off. Like, this is just like a motivational tool, man. And it was a motivational tool. It was up there for 2 reasons. One was just what it said. It was a warning. I didn't want people in there giving me some fucking pity party. This poor cop, this poor guy, da-da-da-da-da, sad faces. How you doing today? I didn't want any of that shit. And the other was accountability. Like, I knew every morning I woke up, based on that morning, the first thing I saw every morning was going to be some nurse walking in with that door swinging in. And the first thing that I see is going to be that sign that I made in my own words. And if I didn't live my day by those words, then I was just a fucking hypocrite. And at this point, that's the last thing I wanted to be. If I was going to do something, I wanted to do it. And that sign was going to help me get there. So that's what we did, man. I came up with a game plan. My first thing was I need a long-term goal. The closest long-term goal was I wanted to walk out of there in 2 weeks under my own power. They wanted me to walk out of there with a walker. That was their goal. My longest long-term goal was I wanted to run a half marathon in under 12 months. They gave me 18 to 24 months before I could start running again. And again, I hold myself to a higher standard. And I thought, no, I can do it. I can run 13 miles in under a year.
I mean, John, most people run it in a couple hours, but 12 months should be plenty of time to run half marathon.
Plenty of time. Yeah, right? Plenty of time, man. Like, 10 feet a day. I get it. So that was a good one. See, you say you didn't have any jokes. That was a good one. That was a long-term goal, man. And that's something I want to stick to. So I stuck to that with my plan, and I came up with a list of micro goals because, like we talked about earlier, man, you gotta give yourself a win here and there. I try to give myself a win every day to keep that momentum going, to keep that motivation going, heading in the right direction. Because if you just run into things blind without a game plan, you're going to fail. You're signing yourself up for failure without a game plan. So that's what I did, man. I had 2 1-hour sessions of physical therapy a day. which were fucking brutal. But there's 24 hours in the day. We got 2 hours of PT, and I got 22 hours left. Like, we just sit here and watch Netflix for 22 hours. Can't do that, man. You know, so I'd find things to do. I'd fiddle around with things in the room, try to get my fingers moving again. With like things they had me doing in therapy sessions, I would try to do on my own. I would try to get myself up out of bed the best I could, get moving around the room with the walker the best I could, which I wasn't supposed to do. I got caught doing that a couple of times. I got pretty pissed. But you got to make shit happen. You know, every night after dinner, I'd buzz down the nurse's station, and I'd have a nurse come down and help me get up to my walker so I could go for a walk every night. Just little things, man. If they gave me 3 repetitions, I did 5. If they gave me 4 rounds, I did 6 or 7. You know, just trying to push myself because again, you want to hold yourself to a higher standard than others are going to hold you.
And that's what separates like normal from optimal, right?
Right. If you stick to the minimum, where are you going to get?
Just right in the middle, man.
You're going to get right in the middle. You're not going to be anything better. So, and I knew that, and I wanted to make sure I put everything into this that I could because again, I went into this with the mindset of not just getting my life back. I went into it with the mindset of I'm going to make something out of this. I'm going to look at this as an opportunity to make myself the best version of me I've ever been, whether it be a husband, a father, a friend, a coworker, a human being in general. That was my mission. I just wanted to be an overall better human being, and that was going to be my takeaway from this situation. So, spend 13th. The 13th day comes. They let me out a day early, and they came in my room with a wheelchair and a walker. I was like, I'm going to walk out. We talked about this. They're like, yeah, we're going to wheel you down to the front door. You can walk to the car. No, I'm not going to do that. So we had to go around for a few minutes about that. Finally, they came to the agreement that they let me try to walk out on my own as long as somebody was behind me with a wheelchair or something. That's cool. So end up walking out, take the elevator downstairs, and walk out to my wife's car and start the journey home. And we get home and got home a day early, like I said, so it was kind of like a surprise for my son. And I pull in the driveway, and he's in the driveway with my parents, and he runs over the passenger side door and jumps right in my lap, right on my fucking leg. And God, it hurt like hell, but at the same time, it felt so good, you know.
God, that hurt my leg right now, actually.
Yeah, it hurt so good and felt so good, man. It was a great moment just to give him a giant hug in the driveway. And then we get inside and hang out with the family for a little bit. And then the next morning is New Year's Eve. And my wife calls the outpatient therapy place I'm going to start going to. And they're like, well, you know, it's New Year's Eve. You know, I don't know if we can get you in a day or whatever. And they didn't know who I was, like what was going on. They just knew like I needed physical therapy and for my leg and my hands. That's all they knew. We didn't call up and say, "Oh, this is the guy that got shot" or anything. Luckily, the physical therapist
it's
that was,
me.
Hey, it's me. Like, yeah, exactly. So they didn't know all the details. They just knew like what body parts they had to work on. But there was a physical therapist there that was working, and she was like, "I ain't got nothing to do tonight. You can come in at 6 o'clock or whatever it was." So I went to physical therapy on New Year's Eve. I met my physical therapist, who I ended up having for just shy of 2 years. And same kind of thing as before, man. She gave me her expectations, and I gave her my expectations. And that's where my expectation was. I'm running 13.1 miles within the next 12 months. And I think she kind of thought I was a little loony. Most people did when I told them that. But I think after a couple of weeks, she realized I was pretty serious, man. And as much as I pushed myself, she was the type of therapist that she saw what I wanted and saw the work I was putting in, and she knew she knew where she could push me. If she felt like I wasn't pushing myself to where I could push it, she would help push it. And she was amazing, man. And that was January. April comes, and I go in there one day, and it was a nice spring April day. And she's like, "You want to go outside and try to run?" And I was like, "Yeah." And at this time, I had been running a little bit like on an anti-gravity treadmill. So at like 50% body weight or whatever it may be. So we go outside, I take a little jog, about half a block, and come back, and you could call it a jog, whatever the fuck it was. I was moving. But yeah, I was getting it. But I remember crying on my way back to her, man, because I was just so happy. I felt like a kid, learning how to ride a bike again. And I just kept pushing from there, man. I kept pushing it, pushing it, pushing it out. Next thing you know, I was running a mile, I was running 2, I was running 4. And then that week I had gotten home from physical therapy, I actually signed up for a half marathon. It was the closest one to me. It was 11 months out. Um, it was like the first week of November. So I signed up for it and go out to run that race in November. Started the race out, and I remember I got to like mile 7, dude. And I was fucking hurting. Like physically, I was hurting, and I was like gassed because I went out. My adrenaline was pumping, and I went out too fast, and I was like kind of burning myself out. And when I started doing that, man, I started seeing his face. Like it started popping in my brain, like I was standing there in front of him again. And it was like I just kind of lost it, man. Like I just started yelling at myself, talking my self talk. Next thing you know, like people were like partying like the Red Sea in front of me because this fucking maniac screaming at himself running through this race.
I'm going through something. Leave me alone.
Yeah. I'm working some shit out here. It was like some crazy ass David Goggins shit or something. So I get to the mile 13 marker, man, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm getting ready to do this. And I start crying at mile 13. And I got pissed because I had a really good fucking time going. And I was like, the crying's like slowing me down. So I started getting mad. And then I started laughing. It was just like one of those moments where it's like, you're sad, but you're happy, like bittersweet kind of thing. And I remember crossing the finish line, dude. And I crossed it. Little kids standing everywhere. I'm running across the finish line. Motherfuck this and fuck that. And dropping F-bombs. All these little kids around. Oh, man. And then but it wasn't too good looking back on it. But, it is what it is. And
Fuck it.
Cross the finish line, go a little bit, and then my wife's there. My wife actually came out of the spectator area and crossed the finish line with me, which was really cool. And then I kind of just collapsed because one, my leg was a little sore at that point. But but the other was like emotionally, man. Like I just had like a total adrenaline and like emotional dump, like in a split second. And I'm laying there on the boardwalk of Rehoboth Beach on the beach, and everything you could think of, man. Happiness, sadness, anger, fear, hatred, everything was just kind of like erupted. And it was like the strangest feeling I ever had, and it was also like the coolest feeling I ever had, man. And I liked it so much. Like 2 weeks later, I ran another half, and I ran that one even faster. The first one I ran on the boardwalk there ended up being the fastest half marathon I ever ran. And then the second one I ran like a few seconds faster. And then it was just kind of like set it off for me, man. Like I ended up, the second one was about 6 days shy of the 1 year anniversary. So my plan to run one ended up being 2. April came, and then I did that whole 4x4x48 Goggins challenge, They 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. I did that with a buddy of mine. And then at the 18-month mark, I did a half Ironman for 70 miles. And then from there, I just kept going, man. I just kept doing some things here and there, and that's what I try to do now.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Do hard shit. I mean, you went through
something hard shit, man.
Most people can't even fathom and came out on the other side. I listen into the story, and a lot of people will, think about, how things can go different or poke holes in what did happen and what didn't happen, and armchair quarterback, basically. I'm not going to do any of those things. I'm going to ask the real questions that I hope my listening audience is asking right now. Yeah. Did the perpetrator have his mask on?
He did not have his mask on.
See, what the fuck, man?
Violation.
See, that's if he would have, things could have been different. Yeah. No, that's
could have changed everything.
That could have changed everything. Just that one little thing. No, that's crazy to hear. It does raise a few alarm bells in my head, though, because I'm listening to your story and I'm going, yeah, that just sounds like a normal, combat exchange.
Yeah.
And I'm just me. I never got into a gunfight though, right? And so I think about my friends that go, how much have we just normalized dying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just one thing from my side of like
Yeah.
perspective on things to just go, yeah, that just sounds like a normal gunfight.
Yeah.
Isn't that shitty?
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it, man? But normal is relative. I
Yeah,
mean, it's everyone has their own sense of normal,
I
and
guess.
people from like your background and my background, although they're different, there's a lot of similarities, and that's one of them where I think there's some similarities.
Yeah, you just
Normalize it.
become tempered, and you just go, yeah, I mean, isn't that normal?
Yeah.
What kind of time from the word go till you're leaving in the cruiser was it?
I want to say it was like 46 seconds or something from their first fucking round to the time we're peeling out of the parking lot. It was fast.
I mean, that's nothing. That's
It's nothing. Yeah. But it was crazy is, man, like it's nothing, but like your brain has so many things going on. It's wild how much you process in that short amount of time. Like think about how long it took me to tell you that story in the parking lot, and that
yeah,
was like a few seconds. That all
yeah.
went through my body. Now it's wild.
It's we retain all this knowledge and you got to get it out, but in the moment it's over, done, and
Yeah.
then you got your whole life to dwell on it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's one of those things where there's no being in the moment in that case. You're just
Yeah.
surviving.
Yeah. Yeah. It was something.
Yeah,
It was something, man.
fuck,
But
it
I
was.
got a good story out of it. I can say that.
Yeah, you got a good story. Yeah, it's a good story because you made it a good story, right? I mean,
That's
you
the
could
whole
have.
thing, man. Like it is what you make. It could have totally went the other direction if I allowed it to.
Yeah, you could very easily crawl into a bottle and never come out.
Exactly. Yeah, and unfortunately, some people do. It's hard. Some things it's different for everyone.
Yeah, you attach onto things. Luckily, fitness is probably the healthiest thing that you can attach yourself to.
Yeah.
For some reason, my phone algorithms got me a bunch of social media on marathon runners, which doesn't make any sense to me because I'm always
Yeah.
looking at them like, man, you guys look really unhealthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
My sister-in-law is an ultra marathon runner too. I'm just like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
God, that just sounds so awful.
Oh, dude, it's rough.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I do my zone 2 training and that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you Side note, are you doing the CrossFit Open this year?
Dude, this is the first year I haven't done. I mean, I didn't do it for 2 years because I was out,
I was
recovery.
gonna I was gonna say you didn't do it those years you were recouping, I'll bet.
No, so I missed 2 years of it. Then I've done it every year since like 2013 or 14. Besides those 2 years, and this year I didn't sign up this year. I was just like, I just wanted to take a break. I feel like I'm not there for it this year. I don't know why. I just wasn't feeling it.
I did the workout last week. It kicked my ass, but then I got done and I went, I'm still really fucking strong at the end of this.
They're fun, man. The open's a lot of fun, dude.
As soon as we get off here in a little while, I'm gonna check the next workout and maybe go to the gym and do it. But
There you go.
so obviously, like I said, you make it a good story because of you. You could easily make it a bad story and let it ruin not only your mental health, but your personal life. You could lose, everything over just feeling bad for yourself. And a lot of guys do that. And then nobody can, really blame them because, that's insensitive. But so which came first, Fit for Duty Foundation or the book, Just One More?
Fit for Duty came first, but the book had started before that because during this recovery process, from the time I was in the hospital, I kept a journal, like my day to day, mentally, physically, because I wanted to look back, like from day to day, week to week, and see like why am I feeling different today than I did this time last week. So I kept a day to day journal, which lost and good into a book when I filled in all the gaps. Fit for Duty was actually out there before the book was. So Fit for Duty came about, let's see, probably 6 months or about 8 months before I retired, maybe something like that. My wife and I started that, and that's Fit for Duty Foundation is a nonprofit we started. So what we do is we try to encourage physical fitness and mental health in law enforcement. And we do that by trying to get guys who are looking to better themselves with that by getting them into CrossFit or like at least a functional fitness style gym similar to CrossFit. So they have that accountability with a coach. And we do that by getting them in there and paying for like their first 3 months membership and then trying to get them to stay on there at that gym or that box at a reduced rate.
Man, good.
It's been a lot of fun, man. We've had a lot of fun with it. I think last year we sponsored I think we were just under 40 people last year. So it's been a lot of fun.
Is it mostly in your area where you're at?
Most of them are in my area here. I mean, all over the place. California, I think I had one in Wisconsin last year. Florida, I mean, kind of Colorado, I think we had one. So it kind of spreads out. Yeah.
And then we get the book put together. How was that feeling once you finally wrapped that up? Because I know writing anything, even a speech, when you finally do it, you're like, I'm glad that's over.
I was glad it was over. The process itself was, I enjoyed it because it was really therapeutic, putting things down in black and white really changes things in my opinion. And then not to mention, I had weekly calls with my publisher where we talked about things and, talking about that kind of stuff with someone in detail it's like talking with a counselor basically. So it was very therapeutic for me, but I was definitely glad when it was over and get it and got it out there. But I didn't have any complaints writing it. I had a good time. with it. Yeah.
So I'm going to assume your Purple Heart and your Medal of Valor came from that incident.
Yeah, the Medal of Valor was the FOP here in Delaware, and then U.S. Marshals, which is really cool, man. They gave me a U.S. Marshal Service Purple Heart. I got that
sitting on the floor. Is it sitting on the floor?
Yeah, it's right here. I'll show you. It's leaned up against the wall. I gotta get it hung up, but it's pretty sick. It's pretty good.
It's all your shit's even framed. We just put a nail in the wall, man.
I know. I gotta get it done, dude. It's a fucking train wreck in here. I got so much like cool cop shit. It's just like leaned up against the wall. I also, I'll show you this too. This is off topic, kind of a little bit, but this is cool. I was given this because I was able to fly with Thunderbirds.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah, so I went on a flight. I went on a flight with the Air Force Thunderbirds. They gave me that. That was a cool experience. But I gotta get that hung up too.
I'm gonna get on Amazon and send you a picture hanging kit here next. Well, I can't wait to read your book. It's on the way. I had to go through your
thanks, man.
Your link because, and I told you this earlier, but I don't think I said this while we were recording. Is if you go on Amazon and put in Just One More, a bunch of romance novels come up. So as I was going through, I was like, this can't be it. This can't be the book about a police officer getting shot on line of duty.
All you guys out there listening know, you're not going to find my book on Amazon. You have to go to my website. TJWebb.com.
Yeah, TJ was TJWebb.com taken, so now you're the TJ Webb.
Yeah, dude, like these web domains are crazy, man. Like I wanted to get TJWebb.com, and some law firm owned it. Like you went to TJWebb.com and it like redirected to a law firm, and like they wanted to sell it. And I'm like, I'm not buying my fucking name, so I was like, I'll just be the TJ Webb. Screw it. So that's how it came.
Yeah, and then that one's taken, and then you had to go with the first TJ Webb. Oh, that one's taken. Right. Oh man, it just keeps getting longer and longer and longer.
Yeah, so that's how that came about.
Was it your choice? So I got medically retired. I'm pretty salty about it. How does that work for you? Was it something you had to buy into because you knew it was coming, or did they just say, "Okay, here's your packet. We're gonna medically retire you"?
So it got to the point where with physical therapy, my therapist was like, "We're there. Like this is the most improvement we're going to get here." And then my surgeon, I had an appointment with my surgeon, my doctor, and he was like, "This is it. We're done. I talked to your therapist. You're where you're going to be, and I am not signing off on you to go back to that line of work. So you're going to have to." He's like, "I don't know what your process is, but you're done." So I filed for disability pension with our state pension system and was granted that.
And that's it? That's the whole process?
Yeah, I mean it's a long process with the paperwork, and you gotta go see doctors, and they do all kinds of shit on like the percentages of your disability and all this
Okay,
kind
so
of
it's a
crazy
similar
shit.
to the VA sort of thing then.
It's a process, yeah, but short end of it, I put in for it, they review it, and I get it, basically.
Okay.
But the thing about it is, you don't know what you're getting until the day they call up and say, "Hey, it's approved. Your retirement date is in like 2 weeks, and this is how much money you're going to get."
Yeah, no more overtime.
Yeah, no more overtime. Yeah, so, yeah, but it worked out. I mean, it was. I kind of knew it was heading in that direction just based off of where I was physically. It was. They were right for not taking me back because I mean, like, I drop shit all the time, dude. Like, go back to handling a firearm like in that environment full time. It's just not.
Is that bad?
It's
That
not.
sounds bad.
My hands?
Dropping a firearm, is that bad? It sounds bad.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think it would be ideal,
Yeah. Let me write let
but
me write that down.
yeah, do not drop. But yeah, so I mean, for the safety of everyone, I couldn't argue that. I don't want to put anybody in danger. You know what I mean? Not to mention, that was my son's biggest thing. He didn't want me to do the job anymore, and so to see his look on his face when I told him I'm done, I'm going to find something else. It was a good feeling.
So how was the transition? Because I guess they had you on, what would you call it, light duty?
No, they were good with me when I was out for those. Yeah, what was it? Like 19, 20 months I was out. I didn't put me on light duty. They were like, don't even bother coming in here. Just work on physical therapy and whatever you got to do to get better. So I never went back to work for anything. I just worked on physical and mental health while I was out.
I mean, well,
Yeah,
that's good. It's like, yeah,
yeah, yeah. They
I
didn't mess with me.
imagine not everyone's afforded that opportunity. That's good.
Yeah, I was very fortunate with that. They gave me my space. It was great.
Good. Um, so I mean, one day you're cop, the next day you're not. How'd you deal with that?
For me, transition has been really tough for me, man. It's been really hard for me. So I had already been when that happened. I retired, and the book came out um, on Black Friday of 2022, and I retired on December 4th. Um, so I was already doing some public speaking here and there, like locally, like police academies and some other like small functions and stuff. So I was like, oh, I'm going to try to go full time on the speaker circuit and do that. So I did that. Last year, I had a really good year out there doing it. I really enjoyed it. Still doing it. Um, but it's not, I haven't grown that to where I want it to be at, where it's like a regular steady income. So I'm actually finishing up getting things together. In a couple weeks, I'm launching a home defense consulting company. So it'll be a lot of like your typical like cameras, locks, all those kinds of things. But I also have like a instead of you like say you want to work, you're a gun owner and you want to work on home defense, instead of going to like a range somewhere or whatever it may be, concealed carry course or something somewhere where they teach you tactics. I'm gonna come to your house and I have this system. It's called laser ammo. So it's like a laser integrated system with like targets and shit. It basically works off of like an airsoft rifle, like a modified from airsoft rifle. So it has like green gas, to get a little bit of recoil with it. But there's no projectiles. So I'll come into your house, go through all your security stuff where you can upgrade. And if you want to do that, we work into like some like one man CQB, which you don't want to do, but if someone's breaking your house, you're going to do it. So we're working into some one man CQB in your house, how to get your family out of the house, how have an escape route, the things you need in a safe room, whatever it may be, and we'll work through that. So something a little different than for me personally. Like if I'm going to learn how to defend my house from an intruder, I want to learn how to defend my house in my house. I don't want to go to some random range and learn it. You know what I mean? So I thought that'd be a good concept if I can bring it to you and teach you how you're going to do this in your house where you need to know how to do it at the end of the day. I thought that would be a pretty good scheme. So
Yeah, people might be more comfortable and
yeah,
yeah, instead of going
yeah,
to a stranger's house and going to a range and getting worried
yeah,
about that, go, yeah,
right,
I like that.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah. So we're working on that now. So But that's the goal right now, and to keep growing public speaking. My wife's gotten into public speaking this year, so she's got some conferences lined up. It's been a lot of fun, man. The conference thing, I really like getting out, talking to people, especially first responders, sharing my story here, a little bit of theirs. It's a lot of fun, man. I really enjoy it, so I'm gonna stick with that.
It keeps you in the community too, right?
Yeah, man, keeps me in that community and in that life a little bit, and it's the whole reason why I wrote the book. I wanted to give back a little bit and help where I can, and that's one way I can do it. So.
Yeah. I said to the guy that wrote this one, I said, it's one thing to do the job, but then when you get out to still improve the job after you're not in the position anymore, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
It says a lot more about you than you'll say about yourself. So what do people think when they meet you? And if they don't know a little bit about you, do you kind of get that they treat you with kid gloves sort of thing, or they just treat you like an adult?
It varies, man. Some people meet me and have know a little bit about it, like they don't want to ask anything or do anything. But I'm always like, I wrote a book about it. You ask me whatever the fuck you want. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? It's out there. Dude. I talk about it for a living. I go on stages to talk about it. But some people are a little weird and uncomfortable about it, especially I've tried to get a little better about the cop sense of humor because not everybody understands that. You know what I mean? But for the most part, people are pretty good with me with everything. Nothing too crazy. Yeah.
What is your sign behind you there? Overcoming critical incidents.
Overcoming critical incidents. So that's the name of my the course I do. So I usually do keynotes, like an hour-long keynote. My keynote is basically we'll cover my incident. It's like a small debrief, depending on the venue we're in. Who the audience is, whether it's corporate or first responders. But we'll debrief the incident and we'll get into the recovery aspect of physically, mentally, how I got through it, how you can apply it to your own life. Talk a little bit about self-leadership and how that's important. So that's pretty much my bread and butter course that I offer. Yeah.
Did you ever have to sit through like an after-action review or like a debrief of your incident and pick it apart and like what we could have done differently? Did you ever have to do that?
Sort of. I went to the Marshals one day while I was out in recovery, and we kind of debriefed a little bit. Not too much because guys didn't really want to shake me up too much with it. And it's like any other organization. People have their own opinions about things. People, oh, well, maybe we could have done this, maybe we could have done that. And my answer was, well, you weren't fucking there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm not asking you any.
That was pretty much my answer.
That's why I'm not.
It was
I wasn't there. What did you say? 45 seconds.
Yeah, it was a very short meeting. I can tell you, it was a very short meeting. So here's the way I look at it, man. People always ask me like, oh, would you do this different? Would you do that different? I wouldn't do anything different because all I know is one, you can't go back and do anything different. But the second is the way I did it, I survived. Any other way I do it, maybe I survive, maybe I don't. We'll never know. That's the reason. That's the point. I survived with what happened, and because of what happened, I am who I am, and I'm where I am because of that. And I don't have any complaints about that. Sometimes you gotta go through some adversity. Sometimes you gotta go through some really tough shit to get where you're maybe you're meant to be. And that's the way I look at it. So,
did all of your time in uniform go by too fast?
Yeah, man, it goes by in a blink. Like when you're there, you don't really feel it. And then when the time comes, you're like, God damn, I just did 19 years doing that shit. You know what I mean? It's wild. I don't feel like it was. I feel like it shouldn't be that long. You know what I mean? But it was. It's wild.
Yeah, and now your hip hurts, right?
Yeah, my hip. If fucking cold weather gets me, yeah, it's a bitch. It's a bitch.
Well,
yeah.
I have 5 questions that I ask everybody. Yeah. So I'm gonna read them and make sure they apply to the situation. I think they do. I don't think we're gonna have to modify too much here. And I think this first one is gonna be the hardest to. No, so. What is your response to thank you for your service? Do you guys get asked that or said that?
I get thanked for my service all the time. And my response is my pleasure.
My pleasure. I've had guys on here, and they'll pick that question apart and going to
Yeah.
like this whole holistic meaning behind it and saying thank you
Nah.
for the Vietnam era and all this other stuff and
Yeah.
like accepting it.
Yeah.
I just say it was an honor. It really was.
Yeah. I always just say my pleasure. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it, man. It's my pleasure. It's kind of like, yeah, no big deal.
All right. What is the one characteristic that sets operators apart from conventional forces? So I would say in this special operations police, apart
Yeah.
from your patrol officers.
I would say that's tough. I would say work ethic. I think your work ethic. I think to a point, I guess you could say, because some of your conventional, as you would say, your patrol guys, they're working to get there. You know what I mean? That's like once you get to that level, um, you learn a different work ethic because you learn a little more. You learn more about how certain things are important and why you need to keep up on things like physical fitness or your tactics or whatever training you might need to keep up to date. Yeah, that's a tough one, but I might say that. I might say that one. Yeah.
How hard is it to like, this is separate, to like grind
Yeah.
and to advance yourself in every, because to come up through the ranks? Is it, because in
Yeah.
the Army, that's our whole life. Like there is no other
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
kind of, there's a plan in a book. And if you follow it, you'll go. And I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, there's some things you have to do, but like you're, in society and things, how much extra are you piling on top in your free time?
With work or like personal life?
Uh, Personal life always gets pushed to the wayside.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I think it's different for everybody. Some guys go out there and they go and try to find as much training as they can in as many areas as they can. I always try to tell people like, what is it you want to do? You want to be a detective? Then go associate with the detectives. Like, go help them as much as you can. Volunteer your time to go help them. Sit in with them. See what they have to say. Hang out with those guys. Same thing with like K9. Like K9 guys are always looking for someone to get in that bite suit. You want to be a K9? Go volunteer to get bit by a dog and start hanging out with those guys. Yeah, dude. Same thing, dude. Like, that's what you want to do? Get your ass over there because they'll use you and they'll remember you, So that, I mean, I feel like everyone's like, to each his their own, but that's always my advice. Like, you want to be a jack of all trades in that job because as a patrol guy, you kind of are. You got to do everything. But if you have a goal, like figure out what it is and focus on it and try to, place yourself around the right people to help you get there.
Definitely commitment. All right. What is the one moment? All right. There may be some changes for everybody listening at home. I did get some feedback on this question and some unique answers lately. But for now, what is the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive?
Man, that's tough. K9.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would. I really miss my dog, man. I had so much fun with that. That was really that was one. I mean, aside from the Marshals, like I would go back and do that in a heartbeat too. But I say K9 because lately I've been missing my dog. I really enjoyed that, man. I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Of all the things, it's probably one you can't explain to people the most, right? Your partner can't
it's
talk,
tough.
but knows
Yeah.
will do anything for you.
Yeah, and people don't get it. Like they think adult, like, oh yeah, I had this pet once that I'm like, it's not a fucking pet. Don't use the P word. It is not a pet. That was my guy. That was not a pet. So people don't really understand that, which is fine. I don't expect people to understand that. But that was definitely a different experience. Yeah.
What is the best piece of advice that you received during your time in uniform?
That's a tough one. I would say, and this is nothing like crazy, like spiritual or anything like that. This is just a good piece of advice I always found to be handy was when you get someone in custody, get them the fuck out of there. So if you get someone in custody, I won't get on the whole fucking political conversation with George Floyd, but that's a prime example, right? You got the guy in custody, and he laid there on the ground for how many minutes? No, he's in cuffs, he's in custody, get him the fuck out of there, right? Because when you leave people laying around, shit happens. Time causes problems, man. It can cause problems, right? So I had a sergeant of mine who's actually one of my closest friends, and he was a mentor for me through a lot of my career. And that was one piece of advice I always listened to was, you get him in custody, get him the fuck out.
Yeah, we
That's
have a
one piece.
similar, it's get off the
Yeah.
objective or get off the X, right? The
Yeah.
longer you're
Yep.
there, the more bad guys can get on the radio and get to
Exactly.
come in your direction. And
Yeah.
nothing good's going to stay from staying there and securing a hot objective. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Same concept.
all right. What were you afraid of then? And what are you afraid of now?
Oh man, what was I afraid of then? What am I afraid of now? What was I afraid of then? I would say making it back then. This is something I don't talk about a whole lot because it's just a random thing, doesn't come up. But like, I always had this feeling, and my wife knew this. I always had this feeling that I was going to be involved in some sort of shit situation in my career because I was like a shit magnet guy. Like shit just happened all the time, and then I got into Marshals, and we were just in a bunch of bad shit all the time. And I always had a feeling that I was going to be involved, not necessarily be shot 6 times, but I was going to be involved in some sort of fucking critical incident like that. And it happened. And my biggest fear was, that happening. And it did. I would say my biggest fear now, honestly, is not succeeding in the transition. Because, like I said before, I'm very open about it. My transition has been very difficult for me. So, you know, you just gotta figure out what it is you want to do and pinpoint that. And again, like I did before, you gotta work out your game plans, short term, long term goals. Yeah, just attack it as much as you can, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I'd say my biggest fear now is failing at that. Yeah.
Come this far, you don't want to let it down now, right?
Can't do it. It's gonna be done.
All right. At the TJ Webb.
That's it, man.
And we got Fit for Duty Foundation. The book that he wrote is Just One More. We'll have links to all of that in the show description. TJ, I really enjoyed this. You got anything for me?
Nah, man, I just want to thank you for having me on, and good luck with the podcast and everything, man. I was watching some episodes today, like running through it, and I think you're gonna have a lot of success with it, man. You're really good to talk to, easy to talk to, really good questions. So, yeah, wish you the best of luck. I want to thank you for having me, man.
I really appreciate that. I think it's so cool that like you came on the show, just responded to a cold message, and
Yeah.
now your what is it? Your network's just that much bigger. So if you need anything from
Yeah,
my
man.
side of the fence, I have
Appreciate it, man.
know a lot of people. So,
Yeah. Teamwork makes a dream work, brother. Appreciate you.
yeah, man. All right. Bye, everybody.